Good evening, my colleagues, and we are back. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriations, and Housing is back. And good evening to the people of Guam. We are now on page 104, which is chapter 11, miscellaneous appropriation, page 104. Are there any amendments for page 104? We're going to go page for page and move along. I don't think there's any amendments. We are now going to page 105. Is there any amendments in 105? Nothing on 105. I'm looking for hands, okay? If I don't see hands, we're going to keep moving. We are now on page 106. Are there any amendments? Senator Rigel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I have an amendment. Just a very small amendment. So if you read this on line 3 of page 106, on G, if you look down at the bottom, it's the last sentence. In G, it says, for those government of Guam retired employees and their survivors who do participate in the government of Guam group health insurance program and are enrolled in Medicare Parts A and B and elect either Class 1 or Class 2, my amendment is just adding Class 3 and Class 4 coverage. That's the only thing that's added. I'm adding Class 3 and Class 4.
Do we need a discussion on that, my colleagues? There being none, I don't see any hands. Joe, let's call the roll call, please. Joe? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Rigel, on page 106, Chairman St. Augustine.
Aye.
Chairman St. Augustine, aye. Vice Chair Rigel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rigel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Okay.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munoz Barnes.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, are you on? Well, we move to the next senator and then we'll call her again. We'll call for a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Teresa Lahi.
Again.
Senator Teresa Lahi, aye. Senator Pilo Talahi.
Okay.
Senator Pilo Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moreland.
Aye.
Senator Moreland, aye. Senator Munoz.
Again.
Senator Munoz, aye. Senator Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres. Senator Torres.
What's that, ma'am?
Senator, we cannot hear you. If you can hear us, we cannot hear you.
Ungan?
Senator Hungan.
Thumbs up? Okay.
Okay. Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Speaker Munoz Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munoz Barnes, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
All right, my colleagues, that motion, that amendment passed. It'll be engrossed into the budget bill. Is there anything else on page 106? I didn't see any other amendment. I'm looking out for a hand, okay? We are now on page 107. Do I see a hand for page 107? There being none, don't see a hand up there. We are now on page 108, my colleagues. I hope you all have your budget in front of you. 108. There being no hands, we're on page 109. Colleagues, 109. There being none, we are now on page 110. Nothing on 110. We are now on page 111. 111. There being none, I don't see any. We're now on page 112, 112. Senator Moylan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe my amendment's on the chat there. Joe, if you can confirm that, but also it's in the drive. But my amendment is for page 112, line 20 to 22. It relates to section 9, Pacific Islands Development Bank, to cross out that section. And I'll just give a brief discussion on this. So while I understand that this section is merely to provide the governor with the authority to deposit funds in the Pacific Islands Development Bank instead of an actual appropriation, that we understand, the reality is that the governor may very well use her transfer authority to take monies that may go towards a more critical needed and provide it to the Pacific Islands Development Bank. Now, the law that created the PIDB states that deposits to this bank would be $1 million. And when we were discussing this in FY20 budget, the governor did indeed ask for this very amount. However, from what I understand, despite this legislature providing her the authority to make the deposit, none was made. But nonetheless, this amendment is simple. Let's strike this section out, because if we are firm that we're going to spend what is being touted as a trim budget or just critical needs, then let's remove any potential expenditure that does not fit this criteria. If corrections improve or collections improve, and the governor feels that the Pacific Island Development Bank does need support, then she can always come back to the legislature for the authority to spend. Also, keeping this section in the budget bill will merely be an unfunded mandate. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if we can move forward to the vote, would be great, so we can move on.
All
Thank
right, Senator Kelly, please. Senator Kelly, you wave your hand. You wanted to speak?
This is just Mossy, Mr. Chair, so I'll keep this brief. I absolutely think we need to be conservative and keep our reins on as much as possible. But if we are going to be serious about economic recovery,
The other islands are.
Stand by, Speaker. Senator Kelly's is up.
Sorry.
so if we are going to be serious about economic recovery, it does not make sense to close off any of the tools open to us. When we invest in there, it is specifically so that we can be helping out small and other businesses on Guam and in the region. So directly and indirectly, any investment there, it strengthens our economy and the region's economy. And even when we're strengthening the region's economy, that comes back to strengthening Guam's economy. So I just hate to close the door on the possibility of helping our businesses recover or get established.
All right, thank you. Madam Speaker, you wanted to speak on that, and then Senator Lee.
If you can just have Senator Lee speak first, and then I'll fall after her. I'm sorry. I'm just
All right.
gathering right now, sir. I do apologize
Okay.
for that.
All right, Senator Lee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to confirm the amendment is to strike out section 9, which just authorizes Imagahagan Guahan, gives her the authority to deposit such funds as necessary into PIDB. I just want to confirm we're not appropriating or allocating any money at all to this purpose, correct? We're just giving her the authority to do so.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Senator, Madam Speaker, and you'll be followed by Vice Speaker. Speaker.
Mr. Chair, I guess for some institution knowledge, the PIDB, the Pacific Islands Development Bank, was founded from the island of Guam. It was through the creation and working closely with other island nations to create this bank to see how we can support our small business entrepreneurs and all that. And I think that taking this amendment and striking this section from the bill will literally have a detriment in the authorization for the governor to make deposits. And I think that as a key member and as a founding member and one who continues, this bank continues to give to not just the island of Guam, but all our island nation residents within the Blue Continent. I think that this provision is very important, and I just respectfully object to this amendment right now.
All right, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Vice Speaker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I ask a question of Steve on the amendment? Okay, thank you, Steve. Did we appropriate last year specifically for PIDB?
No, we did not, Senator. We just provided her the authority.
And is there any, have we received any kind of report back or any indication of how Guam has gained in this? Is this $1 million investment, or?
My understanding, Senator, yeah, my understanding is that all the members can deposit as I believe as much as you can. I mean, what you want. If you want to put in $1 million, you can put in $1 million. If you want to put in $3 million, you can put in $3 million. I don't know if there's a cap as to how much you can contribute into it, but that's the extent I know of this.
And how much did we put in it last year?
No, we didn't appropriate anything into this. I mean, we didn't appropriate any money for this particular item.
Right, I know we didn't appropriate, but how much did the executive branch put into this PIDB in the Pacific Islands Development Bank?
I will need to check. Can I see whatever, if it's in the system, I'll see what I can come up with, but just give me a little time. I can do that for you.
I think it was about $1 million. It was announced on the news at that time, Madam Vice.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just wondering, may I finish? Have we received any revenue back or any report back for the $1 million investment that was put into the Pacific Islands Development Bank? Have we received any report to show how Guam can benefit or has benefit from that $1 million investment?
Madam Speaker or Steve, do you have any info on that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is on their website, sir. And yes, there is a reporting that is done every year. Before Mr. Aaron Palick became a senator for FSM, he was the the CEO for the bank, and there is reporting on what the bank has done, and it has come a long way, Mr. Chair. The $1 million investment that we have, the ROI, has been able to give a lot of community loans to our small business entrepreneurs here on Guam. I don't have the exact number, but everything is online. And as we speak, just yesterday, I had given my proxy to the governor because we had been in session. So they're still meeting. They did meet as we speak. And the governor said she will catch up with me as soon as I'm done with session.
Okay.
So Mr. Chair, so to understand it, that our small businesses have applied for loans to the Pacific Islands Development Bank?
Madam Speaker, how does that work? I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
be
sir.
very curious.
It's just like a bank. Those businesses that have a portfolio and want to start a business here on Guam or in the islands, they have the prerequisites and they apply. And yes, there are a lot of Guam recipients, Guam businesses who have applied for loans and is a part of bringing businesses here and around the Micronesian islands, or all the
Thank
islands
you.
within the continent.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
And
you.
just one last question, Mr. Chair, and then I'll be quiet. I lost my train of thought.
You're
If
okay.
Guam does not deposit any money into the Pacific Islands Development Bank, can Guam residents still avail to loans from the Pacific Islands Development Bank?
Mr. Chair, our charter and our $1 million deposit that was initiated was part of the agreement on how all the islands were came together, and each island nation had to put in that prerequisite to become a part of the association of the bank. So that's how the bank got initiated. And yes, the reporting is up online, and I'd be more than glad to give our colleagues a copy of the updated reports as soon as I get them.
Okay,
Guam
I don't think that was the
residents can avail
question.
to-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, but
The question was, can Guam residents apply for loans to the Pacific Islands Development Bank, whether Guam puts in money or not?
we already put in the money, sir.
No,
We
no,
already-
that's not the question, Madam Speaker, is if the governor doesn't have any money to put in, can the people of Guam, the business, still apply for loans with that bank?
Sir, what I'm trying to tell you is that because we, as a charter member, put in our $1 million, yes, our Guam residents can apply for the loan,
Okay,
for loans,
Okay.
even.
Even
Okay,
if we
'cause we
delete
already
this
started.
section. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
all right. Senator Tello, you waved your hand, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity. I was actually a representative for the PIDB Bank during the Calvo administration. In fact, I was on a trip with the Governor Lulian Guerrero at the time. And from what I gathered, this $1 million was something that they needed to, all of the members had to put into this pot. And they were having a difficult time getting a lot of them. So I don't know, Madam Speaker, if all the other members had met their $1 million goal, but it was also said that a lot of the, like the Vice Speaker was mentioning, are we able to still apply for any kind of loans? What's been happening at PIDB Bank is that the majority loans that are being given out are to the outer islands, more so than our local. And I think the whole nemesis of this amendment, Mr. Chair, is that one, you stated earlier that $1 million has already been given to PIDB. We already met that goal. And even if we didn't, we still have the option to apply for any kind of loans at all. And a lot of it has to do with home loans that they're putting out. It's not just businesses, but also home loans. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this just, what it does is it just doesn't give her the authority to transfer any kind of money over there. I mean, we're just saying enough's enough, and that's all this amendment will do. It doesn't
Okay.
from participating at all. So, Mr. Chair, I stand in full support of this.
Madam Speaker, stand by, please. Everybody else stand by. Senator Tello, please complete.
That's okay, Mr. Chair. I just stand in full support of this. I think there's more better places to put this $1 million. Thank you.
Yes, well, I'm only concerned that it doesn't necessarily have to be $1 million. That was the charter part, and it's whatever's available. If the governor wants to take money, then she does that on her executive site. Does anybody else want to speak to this amendment? Senator Paris?
So I just have a question regarding, so by law, they're supposed to submit audits. Is anybody aware of the last time they sent their audit to the legislature and what was in it?
We just got it, sir, and I'll get it uploaded. And yes, there are
Okay.
reporting requirements, and yes, it will be uploaded. And Guam has over 16% of the loans go through Guam recipients based on their guidelines. So yes, this is a very successful bank helping our people on all our people within Micronesia.
Okay. All right, thank you. Does that answer your question, Senator Sabina?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands going up. Why don't we move to vote? Senator, I don't think, do you need to close, Senator Moylan?
Really fast, really fast.
Okay,
So I'm
okay, real fast.
I'm sure Pacific Island Development Bank will really do good for the people on the Isler Islands and in Guam, but now it's just not the time. You know, that our other Bank of Guam locations over there, I'm sure will be helping out these people, but you can also get your loans locally through GITA here and our other banks as well. And the governor has 30% transfer authority. Do we want the governor this time in this year, in this budget, to transfer authority when we just heard from the customs CQA saying we don't even have enough money to pay for rent? What about our Department of Education and what about our public health that are struggling for money? So I just ask, you know, we can always get back to Pacific Islands Development Bank, but let's not make it during this FY21 budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good spill, Jim, Senator Jim. Joe, let's take a roll call. Let's vote on this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Moylan for lines 20 to 22 on page 112, Chairman San Agustin.
No.
Chairman San Agustin, nay. Vice Chair Rigel.
Nay.
Vice Chair Rigel, nay. Vice Chair Shelton.
Aye.
Vice Chair Shelton, nay. Speaker Munoz-Barnes.
No.
Speaker Munoz-Barnes, nay. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Lee, nay. Senator Therese Talahi.
Pass.
Senator Therese Talahi, pass. Senator Pito Talahi.
Nay.
Senator Pito Talahi, nay. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Aye.
Senator Marsh Taitano, nay. Senator Castro.
Aye.
Senator Castro, nay. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Pass.
Vice Speaker Nelson, pass. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres. Okay. Let the record reflect that Senator Torres has given a thumbs down. Senator Torres, nay. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Senator Therese Talahi.
Aye.
Senator Therese Talahi, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Vice Speaker.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Speaker Nelson, nay. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 5 ayes and 10 nays.
All right, thank you, my colleagues. Motion fails. Moving now, from page 112. Senator, you're still on 112? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as quick, this amendment, section page 1112, line 23 to 25. Section 10, removing real property tax reevaluation. Okay, just a quick explanation of why striking out the real property tax reevaluation. So just as the previous section on the Pacific Island Development Bank, this section also provides the governor the authority to expend on this expense versus an actual appropriation. In other words, the governor may indeed transfer monies from other critical needs to address this expenditure again. So I have no issue with the reevaluation of real property tax, make that clear. But once again, if we are to focus on a trim budget, let's focus on critical expenditures. If collections improve or if the governor finds critical need to pursue this reevaluation, then she can come back to the legislature and seek authority to expend while identifying a funding source. So I have an issue with providing an unfunded mandate or a blanket authority of an expense that is not critical at this time, when we need to focus on healthcare, public safety, and education. And this, after all, is an unusual budget process. So definitely this is an anomaly. But let's just focus on what's primary right now and what's most important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, you're on mute if you are speaking.
I apologize. I thought I was live. Okay. I don't see any hands. I see Senator Tello's hand. Thank you. Senator
you,
Tello, please.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair. Again, you know, the difference between, well, no, actually, you know, I just noticed, Mr. Chair, that on Section 9, what we just voted on, there is no limit to how much the governor can deposit into the Pacific Island Development Bank.
We're on Section 10, ma'am.
Right, right. And in Section 10, again, there's no limit to how much that she can spend for this. So, you know, having a open checkbook, you know, is I think it's something that we should pre-plan. I'm hoping that she does plan to go through an RFP on this. But Mr. Chair, again, you know, we need to put money where it's really needed right now in essentials. What is very essential for our island right now, that's public health, you know, public safety as well. So, and education. So I stand in full support of this.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? I don't see any hands. Senator Sabina. Unmute, please. Don't be like me. Unmute. Thank you.
I have a question for Steve. Did we not appropriate money last year for this? Was there an appropriation for this last year, and was it utilized? Did it lapse?
No, there was none. Again,
Senator, we did not appropriate anything for this particular program. We only provided authorization to secure the funds if they choose to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Sabina, just a little info on that one also. This is a requirement by law to do it every 3 years or after so many years. We didn't hear any cry from revenue and tax wanting to do this, even though there is in the law to do it. And that's why they only gave the authorization. The governor finds money and she finds it more important than, like Senator Teller brought up, public health and everything, then she'll fund it. And then we can call in and find out why that's more important than taking care of the other parties. Right, Senator Sabina? Okay, anybody else like to speak? There being none, you need to close, Senator Jim? If not, okay, no need. Joe, let's take a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Jim Moylan, page 23 to 25, lines 23 to 25, page 112. Chairman San Agustin.
No.
Chairman San Agustin, nays. Vice Chair Rigel.
Nay.
Vice Chair Rigel, nay. Vice Chair Shelton.
Aye.
Vice Chair Shelton, nay. Speaker Munoz-Barnes.
No.
Speaker Munoz-Barnes, nay. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Lee, nay. Senator Therese Talahi.
Again.
Senator Therese Talahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Aye.
Senator Pito Talahi, nay. Senator Marsh Titano.
Aye.
Senator Marsh Titano, nay. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munoz.
Again.
Senator Munoz, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 8 ayes and 7 nays.
All right, thank you. Motion. How much that one more time?
That was 8 ayes, 7 nays.
Okay, it passes. Motion passes. Correct? All right, we move and that'll be engrossed in the budget bill. Senator Jim, do you have any more on this page, page 12, 112, 112?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, and I think we have another one, 112. Senator Clint, did you get that? Do you have that one for section 11? Do you have that, Senator Clint, or no?
No, I don't think I have an amendment here.
Okay. We'll just bookmark that section, that one part. All right, section 11. I got that feedback from Steve from OLB. Moving along, we have page now 113. I see. Let's see who we got. Senator Luis. I have an amendment on page 113. Ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment was already sent, and I think they might have already put it up on the Zoom chat. And if everybody can follow along, and then I'll read along with it, or I'll read it while they follow along.
All right, please.
This is to add a new section 12 to line 5, page 113 in miscellaneous appropriations. Section 12, appropriation to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. The sum of $1,600,000 is appropriated from the general fund to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund from any or all of the surpluses that may occur in any of the general fund categories in Section 2 of Public Law 35-36 on or prior to September 30, 2020. In the event that the surplus supra is less than $1,600,000, the appropriation is reduced to the amount of the surplus. And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to discuss it.
Yes, please.
So, Mr. Chair, this is just another attempt for me to save the Guam Cancer Trust Fund from closing down in 2021. Now, this amendment simply just says that in the event that any general fund revenues in FY 2020 budget are exceeded, that 1.6 million of those funds will go to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. Now, everyone knows this is my last term in the legislature, and you know I'm not that type of senator who engages others in heated debates on the floor. I've never done that. I try to study the issues as much as I can in advance of session to vote for what I believe is good for the community. And when it comes especially to cancer, prevention and treatment, that's where I really have no problem using any possible way I can to do what's right for the Guam Cancer Trust Fund or for cancer, period. Now, although cancer is not the leading cause of death here, and everyone knows that, right? It's either heart disease or diabetes. Cancer, it really is the hardest and most expensive to treat. Now, maybe if cancer patients had access to Medicare, like dialysis patients, the financial burdens of this budget may be lower. Heart disease, diabetes, and cancer are the biggest challenges for our healthcare system. They can be prevented, but heart disease and diabetes can be prevented with lifestyle changes, and cancer can't. Cancer requires months and maybe even years of expensive and painful treatments. Without treatment, every cancer patient will likely die. Like I mentioned, the best treatment for cancer is early diagnosis prevention. Now, once cancer patients require support, this is not covered by health insurance. Early diagnosis, prevention, and support is the mission of the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. Now, if this fund goes away, that burden will fall on our overworked and underfunded Department of Public Health and Social Services. From the grants awarded in FY 2020, the Guam Cancer Trust Fund requires at least $2.6 million to cover the same grant awards. That's $1.6 million more than what is appropriated in this bill. In FY 2019, the Guam Cancer Trust Fund got zero and was told to use their reserves. In FY 2020, the Guam Cancer Trust Fund got $1 million and was told again to use their reserves. The same language is being used again in this budget, $1 million and use reserves. Now, I'm sure all of you remember, and if we need to, maybe we could just call in either Dr. Christ or Dr. Leon Guerrero, but we don't need to do that because you heard Dr. Christ tell all of us that there are no more reserves and that the Guam Cancer Trust Fund will likely shut down without this additional funding. So far, every attempt to change any appropriation that I made to appropriate to another category has failed by an average of 9 votes. I please ask you, at least 7 of you, to join me in this fight. Unlike Braden and Julie and Carol and many other people who fought and lost, like Darlene and Cynthia and Frankie, my mom, Jezreel, and even our own colleague, Tello, who fought and won. Please help me for their souls. Not the agencies that you're supposed to guardian and take care of. We're taking care of people here. There's many others that we can keep alive with the mission of the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. Many others. And let's just try to help them. Just try. This is not guaranteeing them anything, but it's at least giving them hope. And that's the least we can give them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Muñoz. Does anybody want to speak to this? If not, we'll go to vote. Senator Therese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support this amendment to use what I'm describing it. I think I understand it to be excess FY20 revenues for the Cancer Trust Fund up to 1.6 million. And that amount would well, I support that. And I think there are other reasons why in the past, besides ill intention, that the full amount was not appropriated. They found out at one point that they had a lot of reserves. They also found out through the audit recently that there, were some issues that need to be resolved. But I want to give a lot of credit right now to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund, the Guam Cancer, the members who are administering this fund today, and the University of Guam. They have really stepped up in the last 6 months to a year to clean house, and especially after the audit, to put their things in order so that the expenses of the trust would not be questioned, and that it would really be going more towards patient services as much as possible. And so I support those efforts. And so I support this amendment, and I thank the sponsor. Thank you.
All right, does anybody else want to speak? I see none. Senator Lee, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for the proffer of this amendment. Senator, when you're talking about in your amendment, when you're talking about surplus, can you define that for me? Do you mean general fund cumulative surplus?
Sorry, thank you for the question. At this point, we're just looking between now and September 30 of this year from the general fund, whatever comes in as a surplus could be accumulative, yes, up to 1.6 million. I'm sorry, does that answer your question?
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? If not, we're gonna move to vote. Senator Torres and then Madam Vice Speaker.
Yeah, Steve, can you just clarify for me, because I'm a little confused. Could you have both a cumulative deficit in the general fund and a surplus at the same time? Because I thought that as long as you have a cumulative deficit in your general fund, you technically never will have a surplus. Am I getting that correct?
Revenues above what we appropriated.
Yes, I think what the measure is trying to do is taking any surplus above the revenues stated for 2020. You are correct. If there is a deficit, technically, then the government of Guam is still in a deficit, cumulative deficit, yes. But in terms of, I believe, how they calculate what is being recorded at the end of the fiscal year, you can assume that anything collected above the projected revenues can be considered excess above that level.
Yeah, so in essence, you can just appropriate this, but you're just adding then to the deficit. I mean, basically, right?
Just remembering all the excess is unappropriated. So it's unappropriated revenues.
All right, Senator Torres.
I understand. I just understand that technically there really is no surplus unless you get rid of your deficit. And that's just kind of what I know accounting wise, that's generally what it is. But thank you.
Madam Vice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have some concerns with appropriating money to Guam Cancer Trust Fund just because of the most recent audit. And in the audit, it reads that GCTF available for awards to NPOs underutilized. Public Law 30-80 authorizes UOG to allocate up to 75% of the GCTF's balance to nonprofit and charitable organizations involved in providing cancer services. From 2014 to 2018, only 69% of the GCTF's balance was awarded to eligible and qualified organizations based on their needs. Accumulated unspent funds of $4.2 million in FY 2017 and $4.3 million in FY 2018 were invested at a financial institution. There is a need for proactive effort to publicize GCTF services to the community. Otherwise, these will be underutilized. Top 5 grantees from 2014 through 2018, GCTF Council awarded contracts totaling to $8.8 million to 10 NPOs with total payouts of $7.7 million. The top 5 of these grantees received $8 million or 91% of the award, to which NPOA got the largest, $4.3 million or 49%. Being the highest guarantee, we sample for our examination an analysis of NPOA's contract payouts and grant activities. NPOA personnel costs comprised of 60% of the award, comprised of 56% of the award. During the 5-year period, GCTF paid NPOA's personnel costs totaling $2.4 million, which comprised of 56% of the total project costs awarded. For 2018 alone, personnel costs totaling $535,000 were paid for salaries and benefits of only 100% full-time employees and 2 50% FTEs. The council believes that the GCTF was the loan funding provider. And so it just goes down and talks about an appearance of conflict of interest. According to UOG Procurement Rules and Regulations, Chapter 11, Section 11.5.1.1, and Section 5628 of the Guam Procurement Law, it is a breach of ethical standards for any government employee to participate directly or indirectly in a procurement when the government employee knows that he has financial interest pertaining to the procurement. GCTF paid $204,000, which is 50% FTE of the salary and benefits of NPOA's loan administration personnel. Being NPOA's designated representative, the same employee signed as contractor grantee on all awarded contracts totaling $4.3 million. And then it goes down to talk about insufficient documentation and startup cost utilizations, which were questionable, and review and approval of grant applications with apparent pattern not documented, grantees non-compliance with grant reporting and documentary requirements. And so it's not, for me, it's not about not getting money to the patients that need it most and helping those that are fighting cancer. It's not about that. It's about whether the Guam Cancer Trust Fund is utilizing this funding to really help those patients. And so just a question to the proffer of the amendment, is there any change or any movement forward that you can concretely share with us or share with the people of Guam that UOG has done to fix these wrongs that have been done with the taxpayer dollars to help those patients? It's not about not getting the money to the patients. It's about GCTF not getting the money to the patients. That's the issue for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you. Does anybody else would like to speak? And I would ask, Senator Munoz, I don't want you to close yet. Okay, so Madam Vice.
I'd just like to respond to the vice if I can.
Okay, please, Senator
I think
Munoz.
she asked me a question, right, Vice?
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you, Madam Vice. And of course, I was concerned too. That audit came out last year. And that was one of the reasons why they have gone through many, and even the chair of the Guam Cancer Trust Fund has been there. She has been watching over them and making sure that they fix all of their rules and regulations. As a matter of fact, we have a hearing coming up on September 12th, and I really hope that all of you will be there to see and address some of the issues that they have if you have any extra questions. But they really have worked very hard to address all of these issues that the audit last year had brought up. And the audit also was concerned about a particular awardee. And so they have fixed that. It wasn't just across the board. It wasn't an issue that pertained to the entire Guam Cancer Trust Fund. It was just a particular awardee. And so that was one of the issues. And if you can, at least give them a chance to help fix what was broken. I do know that they have worked really hard, the whole board for the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. They've been working really hard at getting themselves up to speed. And again, September 12th is their hearing, and you could see all of the work that they have done since that audit that you just read. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm looking for anybody who would like to speak.
Point of information, Mr. Chair. Just want to say there was a bill introduced that was supposed to try to address some of the audit provisions that could not be addressed by the fund itself, but in the law. So that's still pending a hearing. Yeah.
Okay, and that's in your committee, ma'am?
No, I'm afraid it's in your committee, Mr. Chair, but I know you've been busy. Bill 261, thank you.
Okay, then We're gonna address that for some, for everybody. Senator Shelton, ma'am, please.
Hi, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. And I just like to comment also on the audit and the work that UOG has been doing. If you all recall, we did have an oversight hearing with the University of Guam where they addressed the concerns of the audit and shared with us a little bit about their progress to correct some of those findings. I'd like to ask the author of the amendment, I do really appreciate your efforts, of course, throughout the entire bill to find any money we can to give to the Cancer Trust Fund. And I, of course, share the same concerns wanting to give directly to cancer patients to assist them with their treatment and everything that they go through, all of the help that the Cancer Trust Fund is able to give them. I'm curious as to why you chose the general fund, a surplus, as opposed to the Healthy Futures Fund, which we see is a fund that tracks very well, and you didn't use that in this amendment, where the money from the Guam Cancer Trust Fund, as you've shared with us, the 15% is to come. 15% of the Healthy Futures Fund is to go to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund. So I'm curious as to why the general fund and not the Healthy Futures.
Thank you, Senator Shelton, for that question. As I had, I've done all of my math with the Healthy Futures Fund. I think the OFB had appropriated every single dollar that they had projected already in the Healthy Futures Fund. And so that was part of my struggle. I had to go in and look, and I don't know if they even project anything more than what they're projecting right now. That could be a question that we could pose to OFB. But at this point, this is it feels like my last straw. This feels like the only other opportunity I can to actually pull money that's not even there yet. Like I said, it's kind of like just at least giving them some hope that if there are some surpluses between now and September 30, then we can see at least some money going in there.
Thank you, Senator Munoz. So, Mr. Chair, if I may ask the director of OFB if he can speak to that. The general fund, are we expecting any excess revenue there that is not appropriated yet? And are we expecting any in the Healthy Futures Fund?
Senator, based on the CRER report for July, we are tracking roughly about 20.8 million above revenue projections. Again, this is tracking as of July. We still got August and September. Please keep in mind what's happening now, the closures and everything else. So whatever we were anticipating to collect at a steady rate may now be affected by what is happening over the last week, 2 weeks. And we don't know how long it's going to last. So this amount that we're projection, I can assure you it's going to change. How much, I don't know. But as of today, we are tracking roughly 20.8 million above revenue projections as of July.
That's the general fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the Healthy Futures Fund, Steve?
Healthy Future Fund. The Healthy Future Fund, as of today, July, we are tracking $429,155 above projection. Again, keep in mind, this is as of July. We still have August to September. But that is the tracking of the Healthy Future Fund.
And Steve, would this amendment have any effect on any of our amendments throughout the bill where we over and over again for every agency authorize a continuing appropriation of FY 2020 funds?
This one? No?
Yeah, this one.
Point of information, if I could just jump in here. So we did appropriate the Healthy Futures Fund additional revenues. That was the one where the amendment was made. I was trying to put that money to public health, and the amendment was made to put 15% towards the Cancer Trust Fund. So that one was already passed.
Hey, Steve, you want to answer that?
Okay, the way the amendment is written, it is appropriating 1.6 million from the general fund to the Cancer Trust Fund from any and all surpluses that may occur in the event of the general fund categories. I believe some of the languages that we provided indicated carryovers and indicated lapses, unexpended. So that's a little bit different from this one.
So in other words, it doesn't impact anybody.
Can you say that one more time?
Okay. The proposed measure by Senator Muña, and I'm reading it verbatim, is that the sum of 1,600,000 is appropriated from the general fund to the Guam Cancer Trust Fund from any and all of the surpluses that may occur in any of the general fund categories in Section 2 of Public Law 3536 prior to September 30th. So unlike the provisions that we've been approving and authorizing in the bill, we were talking about lapses, and we're talking about appropriations that have already been made from current and prior years.
So Steve, that basically you're saying it doesn't impact any of the agencies today on what the amendment is of Senator Muña.
The way I'm reading it, Senator, no, it should not impact.
Okay. So everybody should be comfortable. This is just another thing. All right, anybody else would like to speak? If you've spoken already, you're not going to get a second round. There's only one round, okay, please, unless you got a point of information. Senator
Well,
Therese.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting. Just one more point of information. When trying to remember if it was DOA or BBMR who testified in front of us that the special funds were tracking so drastically low that they were hoping to use the 20 million to cover the special funds. Remember? Yeah, that's all. That's all I wanted to.
All right. Okay. Anybody else that has not spoken? If not, Senator Muña, I don't know if you need to close on your amendment. You made a good opening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just want to, I just really want to ask all of my colleagues for their support. And again, I just feel like this is my last hurrah. And if you could just help me help the cancer patients, I'm going to leave it all up to you guys next year to fight for them, And so for this year, at least give me an opportunity to help them like I had promised them from the very beginning. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Joe, let's do the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Muña on page 113 for line 5, Chairman Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Muña Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Muña Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Tuistolahi.
Again.
Senator Tuistolahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
First off, I want to thank Senator Muña for her passionate statement, and I'm voting for that amendment.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Titano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Titano, aye. Senator William Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Muña.
Again.
Senator Muña, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Paris.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Aye.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Titleby.
Thank you. On behalf of all us cancer survivors. Thank you, Senator. Good.
Senator Titleby, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
Thank you, my colleagues, and thank you, Senator Munoz, for that amendment. We're done with page, it will be engrossed into the budget bill. We're done with page 113. I don't see any other amendment unless I see a hand flashing out there. We'll now go to page 114. Is there any amendment out there, my colleagues? There being none, we are going to page 115. I'm not moving too fast, folks, so 115. Is there anybody for 115? I see Senator Jim is getting ready to flash his hand. 115, none there. We're now moving to page 116. My colleagues, we're not going to go backwards on this, okay? We're moving forward. 116. We're now in page 117. Page 117. I'm watching for hands. We're on now page 118. Yes, ma'am. Page 118.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 118, on the very bottom, it's section 9. It's a temporary employment of retired attorneys. So my floor amendment should be there. And what it's going to do is to add, in addition to allowing the Attorney General this authority, we're going to add the Unified Judiciary, the Public Defender Service Corporation, and the alternate public defender, so that any of those entities could hire retired attorneys on a full or part-time basis. And we are correcting an error in the bill, we think, because in the last budget, it read up to step 5, not limited to this level 1, step 1. They think they're unable to hire attorneys at the level 1, step 1, and that they want to hire them at a higher rate.
All right, sounds great.
Yes, and so, unless anyone has any questions, Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right, does anybody have any questions to this? This was brought up by the Attorney General, and I think many of the others were talking about the judiciary to allow the hires or retirees. There being none, Joe, please call for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Twister-Lahi for lines 26 through 12 on pages 118 through 119, Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rangel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rangel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munoz-Barnes.
Hongan.
Speaker Munoz-Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Twister-Lahi.
Again.
Senator Twister-Lahi, aye. Senator Piro-Talahi.
Again, por favor.
Senator Piro-Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh-Titano.
Again.
Senator Marsh-Titano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moreland.
Aye.
Senator Moreland, aye. Senator Munoz.
Again.
Senator Munoz, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Thank you. Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Titleby.
Good.
Senator Titleby, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
Thank you, my colleagues. The motion passes. It'll be engrossed into the budget bill. We are now on page 119. 119, I see no hands. We are now on page 120. 120. I see no hands. We are now on page 121. All right, we are now on page 122. Jim, I'm watching for you, okay? So I know you're getting ready. Page 123. All right, we're now moving to page 124. We are now moving to page 125. We are now moving to page 126. Yes, ma'am, 126, ma'am, or is that 125? 126?
126.
All right, thank you, Senator Therese. You have an amendment.
Yes, so this is on section 22 on page 126 and the authorization to utilize lapse funds for fiscal year 2020. So the bill authorizes the governor to use any lapse funds to recruit and hire public safety personnel for the police department or DOC using FY20 lapses. My amendment would be to add to her authority the ability to hire nurses, public health personnel, respiratory therapists for the Department of Public Health and Social Services and Guam Memorial Hospital.
All right. Does anybody would like to speak to that? If not, we will go ahead and move to vote. Joe, let's call the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Teresa Lahi for lines 18, page 126, Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rigel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rigel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munoz-Barnes.
Okay.
Speaker Munoz-Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Okay.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Teresa Lahi.
Okay.
Senator Teresa Lahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Por favor.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 ayes.
Thank you, my colleagues. That will be engrossed into the budget bill. Senator Lee, you have an amendment, ma'am? Before I go back to Senator Therese.
Yeah, I have a question on the amendment we just passed on section 9, the temporary employment of retired attorneys, Mr. Chair. And maybe if OFB could answer this for me, or maybe Senator Lahi, but that amendment struck out hiring authority for social workers in child protective services. So I just wanted to see if there was another place in miscellaneous provisions where we kept the social workers for CPS intact. I know that they have struggled in the past to make sure that they have enough folks on their to be able to handle their caseload, and I would really hate for them to not be able to attend to the enormous work that they have to do. So I just wanted to kind of, I don't know if that's a bookmark, Mr. Chair, but maybe if we could just ask OFB, and then my team will also be scouring the miscellaneous provisions, because I believe it was something that we placed in there last year. And I hope that that's still a priority of the body, to allow that flexibility to hire retired social workers and other folks for those front lines at CPS. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, we'll bookmark that. But Senator Therese, please.
Oh, no, Mr. Chair, I think it's simple. We believe that was just a typo in the last year's budget that got put in there. And if you look at section 7 on page 117, that's where the social workers are supposed to be taken care of. So section 9 is supposed to be only attorneys.
That would be correct.
Section 7?
Yes, that's section 7, page 117. Where you find the social, may hire retired Guam social workers.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Lahi. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
All right. We are now on page.
Mr. Chair, on the same page, 126.
Okay, 126. Thank you. Please, if you can, for page 126, if you can please read your amendment.
All right, thank you. It's for the same section that we just amended, section 22. I'm adding to the bottom of that section, it's pretty much a transparency provision. So this is lapses, the governor's authority to use lapses. And this is one of the things at least I have struggled with all year, is to try to find out, what are the lapses and how are they being used? So while we want to allow her to use them, my amendment would add on to this section a semicolon and add on the words, provided that 1, notice is given to the speaker of all unaudited potential lapsed funds by agency, program, or other by October 30, semicolon. That would be the list. And 2, notice is given to the speaker of the amount, source, and intended use of those lapsed funds 5 days prior to use. So on October 30, we get a list of potential lapses. It's unaudited, so we understand that. But then when she wants to use it, we just get a notice 5 days prior. This is similar to what they used to do for prior year obligations. If you're going to pay it, you give the speaker notice 5 days prior. And so it doesn't tie your hands in any way. It just allows us to keep track of the lapses that might be available and how they're being used. So this is just a transparency accountability provision. So I ask you for your support. Yeah.
Okay, I hear somebody knocking on the door, but does anybody have anything to comment? If not, we'll move to vote. Nothing? Joe, let's go to vote. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Tuister-Lahi for line 18, page 126, Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munoz-Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munoz-Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Tuister-Lahi.
Again.
Senator Tuister-Lahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi. Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator March Taitano.
Again.
Senator March Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Senator Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Paris.
Again.
Senator Paris, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitugui.
Again.
Excuse me, Senator Taitugui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 ayes.
All right, my colleagues, that amendment passes. It'll be engrossed in the bill. You're welcome, Senator Therese. Thank you. We are now on page, there's nothing else on 126. We are now on page 127. I don't see any hands. We are now moving to page 128. I see no hands. We're now moving to page 129. Jim, you still there? Okay. All right, 129. We're now on 129 now. All right. We are now moving to pay Senator Kelly. You're the first to wait, please.
Well, I'll defer to Senator Lee if she'd rather go first. I just had a simple question about the kiosks.
You have a simple question about what was that, ma'am? You need to ask that, please, so we can move along, and then
yes.
Senator Lee
So
next.
With the electronic filing, I think that this is going to move us in a efficient and positive direction. But there is a little bit of a learning curve for some. So I wanted to ask if anybody knew with the kiosks, if they're going to be manned or there's going to be some assistance there.
When I was at the department, there was a kiosk and it was manned. They had 1 or 2 folks there. I'm going to assume maybe Senator Lee can answer that in reference to that, because that's what one of the things she was pushing for to support revenue and tax, ma'am.
Yes.
That was a good one.
Yes, Moss, that's just very good to hear. I know some people will need to be walked through, but it's a really good skill for them to learn. So thank you for that.
All right, Senator Lee, do you have anything for page 129, ma'am?
Yes, sir, on the BPT e-filing. And this is just, Mr. Chair, basically in line with the discussions that we've had with the department. So I just wanted to bring this up if OFB could load that amendment. I believe I submitted it yesterday or the day before.
Okay, that's on page, let's see, 129, right?
Yeah, and so while they're doing
Joe?
that,
Okay.
just for the benefit of my colleagues, the provisions that are found in this section were found in a bill that I authored. It received a public hearing earlier this month. And as we can see today, there's really no guarantee that in-person government services can really be offered because of COVID, because of the pandemic. So by making the electronic filing of BPT mandatory rather than optional, we can help reduce crowding at Department of Revenue and Tax when they open back up. I think it'll really help to lessen risky face-to-face contact between the DRT employees and customers. But Mr. Chair, as we had committed to in my original bill, this provision also requires that the Department of Revenue and Tax provide adequate notices of the change to businesses upon their monthly BPT filing in no fewer than 19 public spaces. So we're talking about shopping centers, grocery stores, government offices. So I really want to thank OFB for including the changes that were advocated during the public hearing on this bill. For instance, and I'll just note, the effective date of this change has been pushed back to give DRT a little bit more time. So it's been pushed back to February 1st of 2021 as requested by the director. And also the allowance for the director to grant any compassionate exemptions to electronic filing. Senator Kelly had brought up that people might struggle to be able to comply. And so we want to give the director a little bit of flexibility. If there are people having really a hard time, then we want to give her an opportunity to exempt any individuals in our community who are having hardship. So I would also like to clarify the provision does not require any online payments. So business owners that are concerned about any fees, any credit card fees, can continue to pay in person at the Treasurer of Guam if they choose. But they would just have to file electronically and then they could pay in person if they choose. So Mr. Chair, during this COVID emergency, moving all these government services online really makes sense for the health of our community. And by making this change on how BPT is filed, we can also help businesses save their precious time and resources while improving our tax collections during this depressed economic period and into the future. And so, Mr. Chair, sorry, I don't think OFB has loaded the amendment yet.
Right, I was looking for it also, and my colleagues were on page 129. We're doing great, actually. If you want, my colleagues, we can take a few minute recess and then come back and we get everything to load up. Because I know I already see page 131 from Senator Therese. So if my colleagues can continue to please send your amendments in so they'll get loaded and we'll just flow. So let's take a 5-minute recess. All right, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
thank you, my colleagues, and thank you to the people of Guam for their patience. Senator Lee, we're back with you, please. And you have your amendment now loaded up. We can see it. And if you can please, it starts on page 129, but leads into page 130.
Yes,
All right?
that's right. Chair, thank you very much. And thank you, colleagues. I just wanted to note, this is line 23, page 130, and this is to delete subsection D of section 25 of chapter 11 of the bill to read, and it strikes out the exemptions to this section due to extreme hardship shall be made at the discretion of the Director of Department of Revenue and Taxation. And the reasoning for this, Mr. Chair, is that it's actually listed in subsection A of this portion. So it was a duplicate. We're just striking it because it was a duplicative language. And then also to allow legislative legal counsel to make technical corrections to section 25. And again, I want to assure my colleagues that we are still keeping that exemption language for the director of the department, and that's on page 130, lines 2, 3, and 4 of the bill, of the page.
All right, just deleting the duplication of language.
Yeah.
All right, do we have any, I don't think we have any questions on that for discussion. Joe, why don't we go ahead and go for a vote, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Lee, page
Excuse me, Joe.
129.
Excuse me, Joe. Senator Clinton, did you have a question? I'm not too sure if I saw your hand. No, okay, continue on, Joe.
All right, thank you, sir. Again, the amendment on proffered by Senator Lee, page 129 through 30, line 23. Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rigel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rigel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Yes, Hongen.
Thank you. Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Hongen.
Senator Lee, aye. Talahi.
Again.
Senator Therese Talahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Again.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitsimo.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitsimo, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitui.
Again.
Senator Taitsui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
Thank you, my colleagues. The motion passes. The amendment passes. It will be engrossed in the budget bill. We are now on page 131, and Senator Therese, you have an amendment, ma'am. I don't see anybody else with their hands up for any amendments. But Senator Torres, please, before Senator Therese.
I just had a question, Mr. Chair. If you look at page 128 and 129, it appears that there's a duplication of a section. If you look at 128 at around line 10, and then you look at page 129 at line 10, it appears to be the exact same thing, but no, actually, let me take that back, because one is for BBMR and one's for Election Commission, right?
I think so. Where were you looking at again? You were looking at the BBMR section on 128 and on 129. What line number?
It just looked odd, and I just want to make sure it wasn't an error on page 128 at line 10, and then on page 129, line 10, also, it appears to be the exact same language. So I was just wondering if that was just a.
As a matter of fact, ma'am, I think there is a duplication. It says both section 7101. Steve, I think that was
technical error, sir.
Yeah, just technical. So no need for an amendment, but I just want to point it out while I saw it. Okay?
All right, and we'll have that, my colleagues will have that striked out. It
Okay.
was an administrative error.
Chair, are you gonna need a motion to strike that out on item one?
Okay, we'll
Sorry,
create
I
one
just
and
wanna
then
make
we'll
sure.
introduce it, okay? So we'll come back to that. We'll bookmark page 129, so we can strike that one out. Steve, have the staff there create the amendment, please. I'll
You
introduce it.
will do that, sir.
All right, thank you. Now we're on page 131, right? 131, Senator Therese, you have an amendment, 131 down the line 25.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on page 131, section 27, this bill would amend our existing public law to authorize the hiring of lobbyists for GVB and GIDA or their successor agencies. So in other words, make an exemption for those two agencies from the prohibition on hiring lobbyists right now. And believe me, Mr. Chair, I very much appreciate the need for Guam to be, front and center in Washington, D.C., to make sure that our interests are attended to at every possible second there, and that nothing's overlooked. However, this provision, I just feel like should have its own public hearing so that we can be more clear about what are the parameters for this lobbyist and what is their purpose, what is their goals, how will they be paid, and who directs them, that type of thing. And we don't want any duplication of efforts if we don't need it, but if we need it, then I fully agree. So my only point, my motion is to delete this section. My amendment would be to delete this entire section and to put this out of this bill and allow for a proper public hearing process so the community can also weigh in on this very important matter, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you,
No,
Senator
sorry,
Clint.
and just one more thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know that we have our congressman there, and we need full efforts, of course, and we need to work together. We also have a Washington liaison officer, I
That's
think.
correct.
And
That's right.
yes, and so maybe when we have the public hearing on these, it will be very clear, we can, whose role is what, and I just don't want competing efforts in Washington either, Mr. Chair. So thank you.
All right. Senator Clinton, because it impacts also GIDA. Do you have any comments to make on that one, sir?
I have no objections.
All right. Anybody would like to speak? Nobody wants to speak. Good. Joe, let's take the roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Therese Terlahi for pages 131 to 132, lines 25. Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Okay.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Lee, nay. Senator Therese Terlahi.
Again.
Senator Therese Terlahi, aye. Senator Pito Terlahi.
Again.
Senator Pito Terlahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Again.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Senator Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Nay.
Senator Torres, nay. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 13 ayes and 2 nay votes.
Thank you, my colleagues. Motion passes. It'll be engrossed in the bill. We are now on page 132. I'm looking for hands, 132, please. We're now moving to page 133. I don't see the hands in 133. We're now on 134.
134.
I have an amendment.
134. We have both Senator Jim and Senator Kelly. Senator Jim, what did you want to do on 134?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I introduced the amendment. I believe it's uploaded already. It's page 134, line 23, section 31, prohibiting the funding of the position of deputy director from an agency's budget. Of course, notwithstanding any other provisions of the law, no funds from the budget appropriated to any department pursuant to Article 1 of Chapter 3, Title 5, Guam Code Annotated shall be utilized to fund the position of an unclassified deputy director or any like or similar position associated with being an appointed manager of the department. All departments pursuant of this chapter shall establish an internal protocol to identifying an acting director in the event that they are off island or unable to perform their duties for any other purposes. And nothing in this section shall prohibit the executive branch from hiring a deputy director, provided that it is funded from the annual budget appropriated to the governor pursuant to Chapter 5 of this act. And just a brief explanation, Mr. Chairman. I know that this is a very popular amendment and one which I've introduced before. It's simple, prohibiting the line agency from using their budgets to fund deputy directors. So I want to make it clear that this amendment does not prevent the governor from hiring a deputy director, but if she is to pursue hiring, it would have to come from her office budget. But to be honest, we're addressing what's probably the most unusual budgetary process in recent history, and where we really have no idea of what our financial situation will be a month from now, a quarter from now, or even a year from today. In other words, we need to be frugal, and we need to really ask ourselves what's critical and what isn't. So ironically, in 2018, a similar intent was raised for the FY 2019 budget bill. Supported by some of my colleagues who are here in this virtual session today. Unfortunately, that measure was deemed inorganic by the Attorney General, and since that measure prohibited the governor from hiring deputy directors. So this measure is not the same. So I recall a year ago when I first raised this issue, it was estimated to save around 1.5 million in the general fund. And if I'm not mistaken, additional deputy directors have been hired since that time. So I appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I'm looking for hands for discussion because I remember the Attorney General came up with the separation of powers. So I'm looking for anyone to please raise their hand to discuss this. I see none. Senator Torres, Senator Lee, I see both of you raising your hands. So we'll start with Senator Torres, then we'll go to Senator Lee, please.
Chair, can I pass to Senator Lee, please? Because I'm reading right now.
Okay, Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to give you an opportunity if there was something that maybe you or Mr. Guerrero had on this in terms of legal's response on the organicity. You were just alluding to it, so I don't know if you were.
Yes, Senator Lee, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't have any no legal concerns on this one. The only thing I noted was at one time there was a question about separation of powers and what can and cannot be done.
Right.
My thought on that was that we couldn't dictate what positions could be filled by the administration, and the only recourse we could have was maybe restrict the funding to fund such positions, and that was the last I was recalled on that particular issue.
So, Steve, if we were to move forward with this provision, would it be enforceable?
Would it be enforceable if you take judging by the way the amendment is being proffered, it's removing the funding for those positions. And I believe that is within the authority of the legislature to do that. But you could not restrict the filling of the positions should the administration feel that they wanted to, provided they can identify the funding for it. So, you know, the only thing I'm saying is that we are presenting the budget in a lump sum form.
Right.
And then we allow the departments and the agencies, the governors and the directors to utilize those fundings as I believe as see fit to accomplish the goals and missions of the agencies. So with that, I'll kind of like, you know, end it there. But, you know, if you do not fund a position, then technically you can't fill it. That's normally the thought.
Thank you.
All right, and I did contact legal. They asked that if we can just bookmark that, and we'll come back and she'll give us her legal stand on the amendment. All right, Jim, Senator Torres, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the delay. What I was reading actually was an opinion, an article regarding an opinion issued by the Attorney General of Guam, Elizabeth Barrett Anderson, about a prohibition in the budget law against hiring deputy directors and other unclassified employees. And basically, she said that it violates the separation of powers and cannot be enforced. And I know, Steve, your position about, well, if you don't give them money, but essentially this is the equivalent of you know, tying their hands so that they're not able to. So I believe if you look at the decision, and I know legal is going to, but and that's why I asked to look at it, because there was in fact a challenge to this, and the Attorney General issued an opinion that we cannot prohibit the hiring of deputies in the Budget Act because it violates the separation of powers clause. And I just want to add that.
You are absolutely right, Senator. And that's why like I stated earlier, I'm treating these deputy positions like any other positions in the staffing pattern. If we don't fund the positions, I'm assuming that those positions will not be filled. But there's also the flexibility that we gave the governor that should funds be available, it'd be available at her discretion. So, you know, we can only do so much to say that, you know, if they were asking for 10 positions and we didn't fund 10 positions, so that means they can't fund 10 positions. That's normally the thought. But if they need to fill those positions to accomplish the department's missions and goals, then that's beyond me. We've done our part in terms of appropriation. It's in their hands now to execute it and complete, you know, I guess the goals and missions of the agencies.
All right. Thank you, Senator Jim. We're going to bookmark, but go ahead, sir, if you have anything else you want to say.
Appreciate that. Again, the funding could be there. The funding obviously could be there, and it could be in the governor's budget. Money is available, and it's up to the governor where she wants to find it, and especially in her own budget. I'm saying they can have, if they need deputies, just look at the next person who's in charge, but also use the funding from the executive branch. I'm not restricting any funding at all for this position. The governor can definitely hire deputy directors, but use your own budget. Don't use the department's budget. That's the big difference. We're not telling the governor not to hire anyone. We are saying don't take it from the budget of that department, take it from your budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, but we'll wait for her legal. Senator Kelly, please. Yes.
I just wanted clarification. When we're bookmarking this, when we hear back from legal, we'll still be able to talk, right? Was that a closing?
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct. We'll be able to go back because then we'll get the legal standing on it. All right.
Okay. Yeah, because I have no idea what that will be. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Make sure you bookmark this until we get to the end. Jim, Senator Jim.
You can't see me.
Just moving on to my next amendment on the same page, Mr. Chair, if you're ready.
Your amendment on the next page, 135?
I'm sorry, on my next amendment on the same page. Thank you, Mr.
Oh, it's
Chair.
on the same page. Oh, okay, okay. I just want to make sure we're tracking that. Okay. Yeah, go ahead on your next amendment. I guess I'm trying to see it, but line 23, is that the line 23?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Colleagues, it's on page 134, line 23. It's section prohibiting executive security to be funded from the budget appropriated to the Guam Police Department. So notwithstanding any other provisions of the law, no funds from the budget appropriated to the Guam Police Department shall be used to fund the executive security provided to the executive branch of Guam pursuant to chapters 1 and 2 of Title 5, Guam Code Annotated. This section shall also apply to any overtime payments, off-island travel, and the purchase or lease of any vehicle resource used by the executive security. Nothing in this section shall prohibit the executive branch from procuring executive security, provided it is funded from the annual budget appropriated to the office of the governor pursuant to chapter 5 of this act. And just a brief explanation for the reason for this amendment, Mr. Chair. So once again, this is a similar amendment to one I proffered a year ago, and the amendment is simple. We remove any expenses associated with the executive security from GPD's budget. We heard of all the shortfalls they have and how we need money to help them. So if the governor's office feels the need is necessary, then they can fund the security from their budget. So honestly, the public safety needs help. We know that. And this provision would allow the Guam Police Department to utilize 100% of their precious budget for them on personnel and equipment to protect 160,000 plus island residents on Guam. Now, while the expenditure report breaks it down, and I provided, I hope Joe was able to provide that expenditure report that was due by DOA, it breaks it down that the expenses for the executive security in FY29 was around 156,000 lower than FY 2018. But if you look at FY 2020, the expense for the executive security prior to May, it was tracking to exceed 1 million for the rest of the current fiscal year. So I'm assuming that COVID may end up providing a savings toward this overall budget, but by the end of the fiscal year, as travel would have been discounted from the numbers, but night differential and hours overall are tracking to exceed the 2018 projection. So I have absolutely no issue in assuring that our governor and our lieutenant governor are protected. That is important. But with the creativity and cash management, Adaloop can look at hiring private security or off-duty officers and can utilize their own budget. Okay. We have a rising drug problem, and we have daily reports of people stealing from residents' homes. We need to provide our Guam Police Department more resources, and that means scaling back on nearly $1 million to their budget so that they can focus on what is needed to protect our community. So the people have been asking for this, and I think the time is right, and this is the right thing to do. So I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do we have any discussion on this amendment? Now it's about the executive security. Do we see any hands wanting to speak on this executive security? There being none?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, please, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, yes?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am. Go ahead and speak. Thank you.
I just maybe want to share that I believe that GPD has a lump sum appropriation in which the executive security is a part of the budget, and if the good senator wants to defund the police, then he's more than welcome to do that. But I don't think that, Mr. Chair, I could support her. I really don't want to support any bill that defunds the police department in any way. So I just want to register my sentiments and say that I don't want to take anything away from the police.
Means what then on this amendment? I'm trying to understand that.
My objection.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to, Senator Clint, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some questions for Mr. Guerrero. So, Mr. Guerrero, is executive security funded in this budget? Is executive security funded in the executive branch budget?
It is funded in the executive branch budget under the Guam Police Department.
So, if this amendment were to pass, would it still be, would executive security still be funded?
The funding right now that provides executive security will still be there regardless whether or not this amendment passes.
Steve, can make that clear. You're saying it's coming from the police department. So in other words, if this passes, that means to take that money away.
No, sir. The way I'm reading this amendment is that it just prohibits the use of GPD funds to provide for security. I believe, because I'm reading the last part, to the executive branch of Guam. So it doesn't necessarily mean the office of the governor, the lieutenant governor, because it's broad in its sense, because it just says to fund the executive security provided to the executive branch of Guam. So, you know, that's a broad sense. And if your intent is to focus in more to any particular agency or department, then yes. But on the bottom, it also notes that it goes on to say that if security, it allows the procurement of security, executive security, but that funding must come out of the governor's office. If I'm reading this amendment correct.
Right. So is the governor's office, are they budgeted for executive security? Do they have the funding in their office to be able to pay for executive security in this budget?
No, they do not, Senator.
So we have to find a way to fund executive security. So either we put money in the executive branch budget to fund executive security, or we leave it where it's at now, where it's coming out of GPD. Either way, the money has to come from somewhere to pay for executive security. This is a hocus pocus amendment. I'm against it.
You're correct, Senator. That's what would have to happen.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Senator Clint. Does anybody else want to speak to that? Well, hold on, Jim, unless you're going to respond to that statement. Senator Pito, please.
Chair, how far we're going to move if we want the governor to maintain the executive security that they have right now, the police officers, what is the difference? All we have to do is take the money from GPD and give it to the governor's office. Tutungo apa si Jim na nampusa mo mamumji no. We need to protect the governor. We need to protect those people. We've trained police officers, and if we're going to get securities, like I mentioned in a couple of days ago, and Jim mentioned that, you know, he mentioned my name that if I become a governor, and I think I will never become a governor. But let me just say this: that I don't want to be protected by securities who are really not trained like police officers. Tutunga fa si Jim na pananat sa ligo bet no gatso. Leave it as is. So it's not broken. Basta bima ujigo bet no. You're trying to take away some of the authorities from the governor, and it's not broken. So Jim, how?
Thank you, Senator Pito. Anybody else would like to speak? Senator Will, did you have your hands up, sir? No, okay. Let me see, I'm looking for hands, okay? Senator Jim, before I call you, because you're gonna end up closing, okay? So,
I thought we were waiting for legal, no?
no, that's another bookmark. That's the other one.
Oh.
This is strictly a different one. All right, Senator Jim, go ahead and close. Oh, Senator Kelly, apologize. Senator Kelly.
Yeah, I've just been having this roll around in my mind, and I guess, we've all been dealing with our agencies for months now. OFB's been dealing with them. We as committee oversight have been working with them, and BBMR, and we've been tightening the budget. We've been trying to strip things down to bare bones, some more than others. Just depending upon the needs and so forth. And so part of what I'm weighing in my mind is to spring something on someone without giving them a chance to budget for it. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm weighing in my mind. Just this thought of saying that we support security, but we're not going to give you a chance to plan for it and budget it, and you'll find the money. So, when money's so tight, I'm still working through that one.
All right, thank you. Senator Tello, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Steve, earlier you were telling us, or actually a few days ago when we were on the executive budget section, and the question was brought up, how much money did the governor's office, how much less did it make from 2020? And I believe the answer was like $4,000. However, they made a bigger cut because they cut everywhere else, like other agencies under the governor, DOA, police, all those other places. They were cut. So you were taking the whole of the administration's cut. But if you look at the office of the governor, how much was that different from FY 2020?
Senator, the difference in appropriation for the governor's office between FY 20 and FY 21 is a bottom line difference of $4,835 less.
So just $4,000 less from 2020.
Yes, the reason why the cut was minimal is because we needed to fund positions.
Positions at the governor's office.
Warm bodies. Yes, ma'am.
But their only cut to this budget bill at the governor's office was only $4,000. What is the percentage of that?
0.1%. 0.01%. I'm sorry.
That's right. 0.01%. So if the governor has this transfer authority, the governor can also transfer funding. That's my other question. Can the governor actually transfer funding from another agency into her office?
Right now, the way the governor's authority, transfer authority, there's no restrictions to that.
And it can be transferred in the governor's office. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this amendment? Senator Therese?
Yeah, I'm not sure if OFB can answer this, but maybe. I remember one of, I don't remember who it was, but someone testified, one of the representatives from the administration testified recently that there were at least 16 police officers assigned to executive security. And I just wanted to know if you could tell me, is that different than other fiscal years? Can you tell in like the AS 400 or anywhere where they're assigned or anything? Are you able to tell if that's normal or that's not normal for other executives?
You know, Senator, and I'll just talk from my experience. I've been with I've been at the Bureau of Budget for 9 different administrations in my career. And what I can tell you is that at any given time, there's anywhere from 2 to 3 officers working every shift, providing executive security to both the governor and lieutenant governor. I'm assuming that, you know, these the security is done. I would think all the time that he or she is awake. I don't know if executive security is provided when they're at home sleeping or something. I don't know that, but I know that all the time they are on the clock. I have witnessed that there's always security with them. As to how many police officers are under executive security, I would need to, I want to check the staffing pattern to see if there's actual an amount. I can get that for you. But, and in terms of the cost, I believe the staffing pattern does break it down, but give me some time, I'll get back to you on that.
Well, no, I don't, I just want to know if you knew offhand, because yeah, I guess you know, if it's being abused, then I think, of course, we should try to curb that. And if it's not, if it's just a normal 4 people are necessary times 4 shifts, that makes 16 people. I was surprised to hear the number 16. Seems like a lot, but if you shift them out, then I don't know. Maybe they're sharing that instead of accumulating a lot of overtime. I'm not sure, but I just, you know, I guess unless anyone can tell us right now, I'm hoping that the chief of police is the one to make these types of decisions, who will be assigned, whether they're going to be using overtime versus assigning more officers or whatever is the need, and that they're dictating what the need is. So I'm just gonna have to trust the chief of police's discretion in this regard, and you know, of course, hope there's no abuse. Thank you.
Senator Lee, you wanted to speak, and I just got off the phone with the chief. I can give the answer to what Senator Therese was asking, but go ahead, Senator Lee.
Yeah, so I just wanted to dovetail off of what Senator Therese was mentioning. If there is abuse, that, I mean, there were issues in the last administration, and I brought several of them to light, where we were finding that executive security overtime, the overtime for executive security was actually more than the overtime for the entire Hagåtña precinct. And so that was something that was clearly being abused. And so it's a question. But in terms of executive security itself, I think, one, I absolutely want our Magahaga and our first female Magahaga and our lieutenant governor to have the same protections that all of our governors and lieutenant governors have had in the past. I think they deal with significant challenges that the rest of us might not have to deal with, one. And then also, I just, the whole idea of the transfer authority, I kind of agree with what the good senator from Talafofo was mentioning, that even if we pass this amendment, they'll still be funded. So I'm just not sure really what the crux of it is. I'm not sure what the gist of the amendment is. But Mr. Chair, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just provide additional info for the committee. Thank you.
All right. While everybody was, you guys were talking, I got a hold of the chief. In the previous administration, there were about 18 plus police officers. The chief was able to wind it down, bring it down the numbers with the current administration to 12. And he's trying to find a way to even reduce that if possible. So any abuse or such as what was mentioned by Senator Therese, it doesn't exist. They're shrinking it, and they're trying to meet the cost to make sure the police department has manpower. All right, so I hope that answers that question, Senator Therese. All right, thank you. Does anybody else want to speak? I'm looking for a hand. I'm trying to see who spoke already. I think everybody has spoken. If you haven't, then I haven't seen your hand, but then that's okay. Jim, go ahead and close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the discussion. Right now, we're giving the governor carte blanche authority on, there's no cap on executive security. I'm not saying there should be, but I'm just letting you know there's no cap. Whether the comparison between then and now, it doesn't matter. There's no cap. Should the governor have security? Absolutely. I'm not saying taking it away, not at all. You know, and you know where this money is going to come from, and does the governor have to pay for it? Well, let me back, you know, hocus pocus here. I'm going to wave my magic wand. The governor has her budget, and the police department has their budget as well. We're allowing the police department to keep their budget to protect $160,000. I'm not saying remove this executive security from the governor. The governor can, within a budget like all of us, right? I only got so much money to spend. Maybe I look at hiring off-duty officers. Maybe I look at hiring a private company, whatever it takes. Maybe I add additional cameras around my governor's house. Or when I take a walk down in Tumont, you know, I can have GS4 escort me instead of 2 police officers by their feet and another car following me, just in case I need something offhand. But the issue is providing security for the people of Guam. We have a budget that is really, really tight. We heard from Customs that they may not last for 6 months. Whether the chief of police reduced it from 16 to 14 or to 10, wonderful. But that budget is still coming out of the Guam Police Department, which has to provide security for the entire island. The governor has their own budget, provide your own security. I'm not asking to take that away at all. So let's get to the vote. Provide security for the governor, and take it out of your own wallet. Don't take it out of GPD where they're so limited. We don't know when we're going to get the next training force in or not. They got calls up the yin yang, and we got crime happening all over the place with all the unemployment and the situation we're in. Let's help each other. Let's just work with this for now and do the best we can with what limited budget we have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. And now hocus pocus, Joe, please call the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Moylan. Chairman San Agustin.
No.
Chairman San Agustin, nay. Vice Chair Rajel.
Nay.
Vice Chair Rajel, nay. Vice Chair Shelton.
Aye.
Vice Chair Shelton, nay. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Madam Speaker?
We lost her. She's being readmitted right now, sir.
All right, so move to the next person, then we can
Thank you.
come back to her.
Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Lee, nay. Senator Therese Talahi.
Okay.
Therese?
No.
Senator Therese Talahi, nay. Senator Pito Talahi.
Aye.
Senator Pito Talahi, nay. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Aye.
Senator Marsh Taitano, nay. Senator Castro.
Aye.
Senator Castro, nay. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Aye.
Senator Munya, nay. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Aye.
Vice Speaker Nelson, nay. Senator Perez.
Aye.
Senator Perez, nay. Senator Torres.
Nay.
Senator Torres, nay. Senator Tartagui.
And then,
Senator Tartagui, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Speaker Munya Barnes, your mic is on, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I've been in and out.
Right.
So can you just on the amendment, please? Just is this the police?
That's
Is
correct.
this
It's
the one
for
I
the
objected to?
it's for the executive security.
Aye.
Speaker Munya Barnes, nay.
Speaker, your mic is still on, your speaker, so you might want to mute it for now. Thank you, Joe.
Senator Pito's mic is on as well.
Senator Pito, thank you.
Yeah, but I'm not going to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, the amendment received 2 ayes and 13 nays.
All right, thank you, my colleagues. The motion fails. Senator Moylan, I'm looking, other than what we bookmarked, waiting for legal to respond to me, and then I can comment. Is there another one, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're still on
page
page
134.
134. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Line 23, section 31. Contracts or post-employment for former elected officials. So notwithstanding any other provisions of law, rule, or regulations to the contrary, no former elected official shall accept any employment as classified, unclassified, appointed, temporarily, limited term appointment, exempt employee, or enter into a contractual agreement for service in the government of Guam or any government of Guam instrumental within 12 months from their last day in elected position. The only exception to this provision shall be if the position is an educator with the Guam Department of Education, University of Guam, or the Guam Community College, as a licensed health professional at the Guam Memorial Hospital or Department of Public Health and Social Services, and as a duly sworn peace officer of law or in the position as an elected official. Mr. Chairman, a brief explanation of the reason for the amendment prohibiting the employment of elected officials. So this amendment is very standard as to certain criteria many private entities or even federal positions require when an employee ends their tenure with the organization. The Guam legislature has an integrated role when it comes to this budget process, and that lawmakers, we have a great influence as to how certain agencies are funded. And likewise, elected officials in general, be it someone who ends their career as an attorney general, a mayor, or even as governor, they may have had some influence with government in general. And that a temporary separation from the public service is ideal. So therefore, in the heart of assuring that conflicts of interest or even political patronage is not part of this process, I highly recommend the adoption of this amendment as part of this budget bill. It's very simple, Mr. Chairman. If one was to lose the election or opt not to seek re-election, they shall be prohibited from obtaining a government job, contract, or some similar role with the government of Guam for a period of 12 months. This timeline assures that at least one fiscal year is surpassed. However, Mr. Chairman, because of shortages in teachers and nurses and law enforcement officers, I am open to allowing these positions to be exempt from this prohibition rule. Thus, the amendment addresses this issue. So the community expects more out of their elected officials, Mr. Chairman, and the practice of hiring elected officials who either lost the election or choose not to seek re-election has been a long-standing practice. And while at times the governor prefers hiring individuals who bring certain experience to the table, many times it's also an act of political patronage. So we need the legislation that proffers this change, please, Mr. Chairman, and the ones that say we are the ones to step away from ending the acts of political favors and nepotism. We can't just talk about it, we need to act on it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Senator Jim. Does anybody want to speak on this? Because I was trying to catch exactly, you don't want anybody hired if they were elected or non-elected, and you didn't identify director position, you identified just about any position, correct? Other than selected. I'm trying to find your amendment.
Joe, the amendment should have been posted. I'm sure it was. But to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, except for public safety, public health, and education. Yes, we are in short need there are shortages of positions or of people for these positions. We definitely need more people in education, public safety, and public health. So those are exempt. And if other colleagues wish to also exempt other positions, sure. But those are the important positions. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Senator Shelton, please.
can we get the amendment in the chat?
Yeah, if we could. Joe, can we get that amendment on the chat? Because he had quite a few on page 134. So.
Thank you. It's been noted.
Okay, Madam Vice Speaker, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the proffer of the amendment.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair, would that also, should we also consider those that are still receiving some kind of salary and stipend to not be qualified to be a part of this body if you have a government contract?
Senator Jim, you have an answer to that, to the question that was posed by the Vice Speaker, or you need her to repeat it?
I'll repeat it best I can understand it. Thank you for the question. So if I understand correctly, if the person was to lose the election or decided not to run, would that exempt them from receiving a contract rather than being hired for the position? The only exception is regarding public education, public health, and public safety. Currently with this bill that I'm offering. So I hope that answers the question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Senator Torres, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, I think I still have the floor.
Oh, I apologize. I thought you were done. Okay, Madam Vice, please continue.
Can I just, if I may ask the proffer of the amendment, what was the impetus or the inspiration for writing such an amendment?
Okay, thank you for the question. As I read, I'll reiterate my statement. The community expects more out of their elected officials, and the practice of hiring elected officials who either lose the election or choose not to seek re-election has been a long-standing practice. While at the times the governor prefers hiring individuals who bring certain experience to the table, many times it's just political patronage. In other words, we've heard it all before. It's like, okay, I lost the election and now all of a sudden I got a $50,000 raise because I'm a director or something like that. But in reality, we also have over 30,000 people that are unemployed. Will they ever get their jobs back? I don't know. Will tourism market open up? Hopefully. But in the meantime, where are these people going to get their jobs, right? Are we going to make preference to those that carried some votes to be hired in high-paying positions, or should we exempt them at least just for 1 year? Because we have a lot of influence in those different departments, and we're bringing political patronage to it, and that's how the public looks at it. I really believe so, and we hear it time and time again. But we should open the doors for other people to also apply, because there's a lot of expertise out there, and this pool of money is going to run out. So let's open it for all the public to offer their expertise. I'm not saying that's not available now, but I'm saying that should be exempt from those that held political offices that were hoping to get positions just by not being, political patronage. That's basically it. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And he's absolutely right. We have seen it before in previous administrations where elected officials have lost elections and are hired within the administration. And we also see it where there are some elected officials who has a stake in certain companies that the government awards contracts to, and they receive salaries and stipends. And so I'm just trying to balance where how do I discern for myself the question of conflict of interest? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Torres.
Real simple question, Senator Jim. If you were to run for governor in 2022, would this prohibit you from, and you win, would this prohibit you from taking the job as governor in 2023? Say you're a senator and you run for governor and you win. You can't assume the position because it's an unclassified position? I'm just trying to understand. So you couldn't run as a senator, run for governor, win, and then take office because it's within 12 months under this scenario?
Thank you for the question. Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to answer that.
Yes, please do. It's being posed to you.
Oh, thank you. So nobody's appointed me to the position to be governor if I was to run, and I'm not looking to run. Just to answer that question, I'm looking to get reelected. Peter and I, we may compete, but the answer is the people of Guam would elect you to that position. I wouldn't be appointed by the President of the United States to be the governor of Guam. So I'm talking about you're being appointed in these positions as deputy director, director, some new position that whoever is in charge decides to make up. But if I was an educator and I have experience in the Department of Corrections, if I wish to go back there, then there's no restrictions because we already heard through the committee chair of Department of Corrections, where are the people to fill these positions? So I could be one of them if I wanted to go back to prison, but public safety, public health, and public education, let's not limit that to those people that want to come back into those professions. And I think we have a few teachers here as well. But to become governor, you got to campaign for that. I'm not being appointed to become governor. That person will be elected by the majority of the people of Guam based on their performance to become governor. So
okay,
I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's great. It just says in the amendment, no former elected official shall accept any employment. So it doesn't say how. So I mean, no, it's cool. That's fine. I think otherwise. But good luck to you in 2022.
All right, Senator Kelly, you have a question you want to pose, ma'am?
Yes, I have two. So wondering about the 12-month requirement. It seems kind of arbitrary. So how did you arrive at 12 months? And, because I'm thinking our positions here are for 2 and 4 years. So it doesn't seem to match with those. So if you could explain the 12-month process to me, how you arrived at it.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer that question. I have 2 answers for your questions, Senator. First, my experience in the private sector, and I've had other companies that I have worked for, you signed the agreement not to disclose any information, and I can no longer compete in that business when, for example, in insurance industry, you can't get back into another insurance company right after you quit from one. You signed this disclosure agreement, and usually it's 1 year. But also, I think Joe had put this on the chat as well. We have a current law in place for the government of Guam. It's Title 4, subsection 15-210. And it's about restrictions on post-employment. If you're able to see it on the chat, it's posted if Joe can ensure that it's posted. But this applies to full-time employees of the government of Guam. It's 3 sections. I'll try to highlight it to keep this speed up going quicker. But Section A, no former employee shall disclose any information by law which is not available to the public from their current job. Okay, that's simple. Section B, no former employee shall within 12 months after termination from employment assist any person or business or act as a representative capacity for a fee or other considerations or matters involving official actions by a particular territorial agency with which the employee has actually served. So, you can't contract with this private company where when you were in that agency, you just left. This is current law, and that's a 1-year period. And then item C, the section shall prohibit any agency from contracting with former employee to act on a matter on behalf of the territory within the period of limitation stated herein, unless exempt from law. So we're concerned about.
Oh, no, I'm not asking about the concern. It was only the month. I'm trying to wrap it up here. I have my own several amendments, so sorry. The other is looking at the job descriptions. There are so many critical job descriptions. Now, because of part of my background, I really think of the one that immediately came to mind is archaeologist. We have been looking for a qualified archaeologist. Our cultural resources are really suffering. We hear about it so constantly. And so I'm struggling a bit with the limitations. Educator, and so I'm wondering about those justifications and if it's really well thought out to understand what our critical needs are. For a large sector of the population, I would say we've been desperate for a quality additional archaeologist. We have one, but our office needs 2, if not 3. And we've been actively looking. I'm sure Senator Talahiu has oversight over the HBO can testify to this. And it's such a critical position. So I just worry about this restriction if we're cutting ourselves off a bit from some really key places. Maybe if there was more time spent on what defines as critical and understanding our needs. Pacific Islands generally are very thinly spread with expertise. And so kind of across the board, we probably have a lot of critical needs. So in the matter of time, I'll just leave it at that. I don't need the explanation. I'll just say that it seems to me it could use a little bit more vetting for.
Thank you for that, and I'll be really quick. Thank you for the statement, but basically we're talking about elected officials. I don't know how many archaeologists have become senators. Maybe there could be one.
Well, I have a degree in anthropology, and archaeology is underneath anthropology. So, that's part of why I'm thinking about it. And we need some really good cultural anthropologists out there too. So anyways, my only point is that, yeah, maybe continuing to think through critical a little bit more than just a couple of categories.
Yeah, Senator Jim, you want to respond real quick on that one? And then we got Senator Peter Terlay wants to speak. So if you can respond to that, please, because you're identifying only 3 areas.
Yeah, the most important, public safety, health, and education. But that's fine. If you want to add in archaeologists, that's fine. But it's a teacher, education, whether it be that's fine. And we're just talking about a limited group of people, and it's so hard to find people to even run for senator. And maybe that's why we should make it part-time. But it's just a limited group of people we're talking about. There's 15, right? So we're not talking about masses of people. We're just talking about the political stuff that goes on to hire people and so forth. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Senator Peter, please, if you would speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I just want to raise this because it looks like this particular amendment is focusing on senators and even the mayors. He's forgetting that we do have families and we're not guaranteed to be senators for life. We are not guaranteed, or the mayors, they're not guaranteed to be mayors for life. He's forgetting about us that have families to support. And sometimes I would rather go and apply for a government job rather than a private job. So let's, the thing is, let's not forget that we do have mayors that are running for mayor and they're not guaranteed and they do have families. So if that's the only way that they can get a job is to the government and they're taken, they're hired, then that's good. I don't see What is so magical about concentrating on senators and elected officials like the mayors? Just let it be. Let us run our own life the way we want to run our own life. Why are you interfering with the livelihood of our kids, of our families? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and not only, anybody else like to speak? I just wanted to see if anybody else would like to speak. Senator, you didn't speak yet? Okay, go ahead. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senators.
Yes, so Senator Jim, yes, I hear you. This is something, I think it's not new. I think they tried to do this before, that, you know, people don't like to see what they think is simply political patronage. And, you know, I think it's very hard to avoid, however. And I'm looking at a provision of law because when you read your amendment out, I said, oh, that sounds so familiar. And I remember this. Yeah, I think they've tried in several ways over the years to do something similar to what you are doing. But I think that the procurement law that you read earlier, that that really narrows it down to the influence you might have had in, procurement decisions, or that you're using your office to benefit yourself in your next office. I mean, those things I think are more narrow and, so, but your amendment, however, it's kind of broad. And I just want to read something. Oh, shoot, that just died on me. Anyways, there's a provision in law. I think it's 4 GCA 2103.2 that does this. It prohibits anyone going from unclassified to classified for several number of days. But on the bottom of that, that's what I wanted to read, but my other computer just died. It says that this is not allowed by the Constitution, I guess. So it's too restrictive, and especially the way that one statute is written. That's a note by the compiler underneath, but the statute still exists. And the statute coincidentally made similar exceptions like you did for certain positions that it thought was worthy. But so I just think if we really want to do that, we would have to really run that through legal. Okay, let me read the bottom. I won't read the statute to you, but I'm going to read the bottom of it, that where the compiler put the note. Oh, yeah, Dave. Okay, just my computer. Here it is. Sorry, 1 second. Mr. Chair, okay, it's frozen, so I guess, but it says that type of a restriction, unclassified to classified, restricting that for a number of days, at least under that provision, was not constitutional. It was a bill of attainder, they said. So I just think if we really want to vote on that, we need to, we might have to send that through legal and make it very, very narrow, so that's, but I hear you. I understand that people they don't want to see political patronage or, nepotism, all of that kind of stuff, but it's very hard to restrict it in law. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else looking that haven't spoken? Senator Sabina, hopefully we'll be done soon. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all want to have a fair chance at getting a position, and I feel that we've heard stories where people get positions that aren't qualified for those positions, and I think it's going to require a lot more work, and getting the best practices and systems in place to do that, and I think merit. People should get the job based on merit and not because of your connections, right? So, I guess that's probably a utopian vision, and I do appreciate the efforts of the author, but I feel it needs a little work as well. So, just some of my thoughts regarding that.
All right, thank you. I'm looking, I don't see anybody else raising their hand. Madam Speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that, some individuals in this body have benefited from this scenario where they lost an election and got a job, in the administration after an election. And I give power to them if they have the opportunity to do that. And for me, I would say if the interests of the individuals who want to get a job and whoever it may be, whether it be an ADLA or an autonomous agency, there's already provisions on law that provide where some folks cannot get a job a year after they're in. But to put an amendment like this in at this time, we know that elected officials have lost and have been afforded the opportunity to work in the government. And as long as it's not an immediate conflict for 1 year, depending if you have an oversight on a committee, then it's okay. Other than that, you have to recuse yourself for 1 year. But you know what? I don't want to call anybody a hypocrite, but let's look in the mirror. There are people who have had that opportunity, and I say all power to them if they're able to get it. But to put an amendment like this now, come on, guys. I don't know, Mr. Chair. I just think that this is not being. I don't know. I object to this amendment.
All right, thank you, Madam Speaker. If you can just turn off your mic. There you go. I want to make sure I check everybody. Okay, so far I think everybody's spoken except for me. I've only asked a question, but Senator Jim, I understand your intent. My colleagues, I understand his intent. But I've got a problem with this bill because the positions you call for, I'm qualified for a criminal investigator. I can work for revenue and tax as a tax investigator. I don't fall under public safety. So I've got a problem with that. And you're basically trying to toot that horn. And not only is there mayors, but there's also elected people, even on the school board and on other positions. So I'm not going to promote this. And I would just be very careful. I know that you tried to introduce a bill. I think you did, and we didn't address it yet. But I would be very careful, and we try to work this down the line, and then we move from there. So, all right, and let's move for the vote. Joe, let's move for the vote, please.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can close. You can close, Senator Jim. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem, Mr. Chair. Yeah, because I don't want you to follow me when you get back into rev and tax and
oh no, I won't follow you. And up to today, just to let you know, I do have a this federal law restriction from even talking about your taxes up to 10 years from my employment. Okay, so you're still covered. You're okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, based on the conversation, I do appreciate all my colleagues making recommendations. But from what I heard, especially from Senator Tlahi and Senator Spina, and I'm going to include you also, Mr. Chairman. Based on your recommendations and colleagues, I will withdraw my amendment. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have any more, Senator Jim? Any more amendments on page 134? None, right?
I mentioned the importance of vetting positions.
Wait. I apologize, Senator Kelly. We have to go to the motion to withdraw. We have to go to the motion to withdraw. Are there any objection to the motion to withdraw?
Mr. Chair, don't we need to vote on that?
Yeah, I was going to go to the vote, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, let's vote on the motion to withdraw, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the motion to withdraw the amendment proffered by Senator Moylan.
Aye. He wants to
Thank
move
you.
it.
Chairman San Augustine, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
It could be done.
Speaker Munya Barnes.
Aye.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Therese Tatlahi.
Again.
Senator Therese Tatlahi, aye. Senator Pito Tatlahi.
Ungan. Por
Senator
favor.
Pito Tatlahi. Senator Pito Tatlahi, aye. Senator Marsh Taitano.
Hungen, and just to clarify, I'm not an archaeologist, so I just know we need them.
Senator Marsh Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Aye.
Vice Speaker Nelson, nay. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitagui.
Good.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the motion to withdraw received 14 ayes and 1 nay.
14 ayes and 1 nay. Then the motion passes. The amendment is withdrawn. Correct. Now we will move to Senator Moylan. You still have one more amendment on page 134 on line 123 again. Still in that area. Sir.
Thanks, Mr.
Is
Chair.
it, oh, sorry, what is the WhatsApp image in our chat? Is that, because when I tried to download it, it caused a security alert. So is that the amendment or what is that?
You sending a virus, Jim? Senator Jim?
There's a WhatsApp image there?
If I, just so I can share, this is the statute that Senator Jim provided an image for as an attachment to his previous amendment.
Okay.
Okay, Joe, do you have his updated, his new amendment on, for page 23 also, it talks about realignment plan. Do you have that uploaded already?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that will be loaded in just a few seconds. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, my turn. I'll expedite this. Thank you.
Okay,
So-
but, well, hold on so you can upload it so everybody else can see it, sir. Thank you, Jim. There it is. I think that's the one that's uploaded. Is that, am I correct, Joe? Is that the one that need to be uploaded?
Yes, this is the fiscal realignment plan amendment by Senator Moylan.
All right, Senator Moylan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. Page 134, line 23, item D, fiscal realignment plan, notwithstanding any other provisions of the law for fiscal year 2021, 30 days after the close of each quarter of the fiscal year, the directors of the Department of Administration, Department of Revenue and Taxation, and the Bureau of Budget and Management Research shall determine whether actual revenues collected for that quarter are consistent with the projected revenues for the fiscal year. If said directors determine that the projected fiscal year revenues based on the actual revenues collected are 2% or more less than revenues projections adopted by the Annual Budget Act, the governor shall submit to the Speaker of the Legislature a fiscal realignment plan that shall address the revenue disparity. Said plan may include, but is not limited to, cost containment, austerity measures, governmental reorganization plan, and other such actions. The governor shall submit to the Speaker proposed legislation in a bill format to be implemented the fiscal realignment plan if the legislature action is required. And for my colleagues, a brief explanation of why this amendment. It's when BBMR participated in these discussions, they were very optimistic with their projections in terms of what collections will be for FY21. However, with the same token, my sentiments were shared by many of my colleagues with the thought process of whether these numbers are a bit too hopeful and that some precaution must be taken. Now, the Guam law currently states that if collections are for any quarter are 3% or more less than what was projected, then the governor shall submit a fiscal realignment plan to the Guam legislature for consideration. My take is simple. We need to provide some provisions with the FY21 budget. Process, as this is by far the most unique budgetary process in recent history. And our tourism market is hurting, and it's hurting really hard. We have over 35,000 island residents. They're unemployed, and businesses are closing their doors, and we have no timeline as to when this pandemic will end. So what we need to place is assurance now. And this amendment merely reduces the percentile from 3% to 2% for when a fiscal realignment plan will have to be submitted. And please note, it basically means if for the entire quarter, the collections are 2% or more less than what was projected, the governor will have to submit a plan. Now, I originally proposed, and we previously talked about this, to make it at 1%. But after conversation, which we had last week, I'm now open to proposing this one at 2% instead, and in the spirit of finding a middle ground. So this would be for an entire quarter. You know, I get it. The BBMR director claims it's a challenge to complete such a plan. But honestly, one, it's part of his job. And two, he's optimistic about the projections. So then he and his team, they don't have to worry about needing to come up with this plan. So let's keep it safe for us. And I ask for your agreement. And ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues, we just need to be meticulous with this budget. And if we don't place any stringent parameters on the collection as it starts dwindling down, the last thing we want to do is to allow this government to act when it's too late. And this amendment is the right thing to do for this rare anomaly of the budget process. So I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman, sorry, future speaker, I don't know.
Hey. No promotion required. I'm having fun as the chair. Steve, maybe you can explain a little bit, because we had a discussion a little bit about this earlier in the week about the 3% on the realignment, and I know you're familiar with that. If you can please explain why the 3% agree is there, and then I'm gonna have Clint cover me here, and I'm gonna step out and give legal a call. Steve, if you can, please talk about that realignment issue and how it was brought upon.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The current law regarding the fiscal realignment plan for the government of Guam just simply states that anytime the projected revenues fall below 3% of the projected revenues in a quarter, the administration is required to submit a fiscal realignment plan 30 days after the quarter ends that will indicate basically how they plan to address the revenue disparity that is being experienced, especially over that last quarter. That's basically what the fiscal realignment plan is all about. It's just a safeguard to be put in place just in case revenues, projected revenues don't come in as projected over a period of time. The law right now requires it over a 3-month period. Preferably, I mean, not a 3-month period, over a quarter. After that quarter, a fiscal realignment plan must be developed and submitted to the legislature 30 days after. I believe Senator Moylan's is probably his amendment seems to be almost exactly the same. I think the only thing he's changing is the percentage from 3 to 2%. And correct me if I'm wrong, Senator Moylan, if I am mistaken.
That's correct. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, anyone on the Moylan amendment? Anyone? Going once? Senator Talahi, you're recognized.
Steve, could you just tell us what is that amount? 3% of this current budget as is, or 2%? Yeah, what are those amounts?
Yes, Senator, the monthly projection for the revenues is not the same every month. It varies. So that means like for the first 3 months of the quarter, though that amount is different from the second quarter amount. So it would vary depending on the quarter you're in. And it's also based on Bureau budgets projected anticipated revenue collections schedule that they put out, and it's actually reflected in the CRE report. So we use that as the basis to determine whether or not they're within or not within that 3% range.
All right, just trying to get a ballpark figure about what's the difference between 2% and 3%, what amount that might be. That I know it changes, but anyways, if you could.
I would have to go and look at the CR report to do that, Senator. I don't have that information right now.
Okay.
And it would be difficult to determine because, like I said, every quarter is different. If you're asking me for a ballpark range, gosh, it might be different because the first 3 quarters could require that we collect 200 million, and the second quarter may require we only collect 150 million.
Yeah,
so
I know. I'm just asking if, without looking at those different allocations for different months, if we could get a ballpark, but it's okay. I'm just going to divide it by 12 and try to do that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Senator Talahi. Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So yeah, I just wanted to have a follow-up question. So we're going to look at the fiscal realignment plan just for my kind of own estimation. So we're going to take, let's say we adopt the revenues of, are we using the $949,368,355? Is that the one that we're going to base it on? If I can just do a quick math, is this what we're basing it on?
You would use the 775 amount,
Okay.
Senator.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, anyone else on the Moylan amendment? Senator Kelly Marsh-Teitzen, are you recognized?
Situs Masi. I think there's a little bit of a typo, but technical will, legal will catch that technical thing. Because after 2%, it says based on actual revenues collected are 2% or more or less. So I think it's supposed to be are 2% more or less than revenue projections. But yeah, it's 9:16, so I try not to rush, but for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable with readjusting if it's 2% more, because I think what we've learned from this time around is we had really good collections and revenue that first quarter or two, and then we hit the real lows. So I don't know that I'd feel comfortable if we're doing better to, you know, to project for a better outcome. I think I'd want a lot more assurance before we started adjusting and changing all of our budgets and increasing them. So yeah, I'm thinking that one through. The less I get, but the more I think for especially the years coming up, the more I feel uncomfortable about, yeah.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. Senator Nelson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Steve, when is the executive branch required to submit a fiscal realignment plan? What is the
once the 3% per quarter is not realized, they have 30 days after the quarter to submit the plan to the legislature.
Actual plus projected.
Yeah, and it includes actual plus projected, okay? But you have,
Okay.
they have 30 days after the quarter to submit the realignment plan to the legislature.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand this a little bit. In the beginning, when we were discussing the revenue projections with BBMR, we didn't want to adjust our projections to project a higher amount, because we're seeing that businesses are closing down, people are losing their jobs, and I understand we have the PUA and some of the SBA loans that may be forgiven. That was, gosh, it's so late. That was pushed into the economy. And so I'm just trying to think, if it's 3% for the fiscal realignment plan, the number that BBMR was trying to convince us to adjust, would that amount trigger if we were not able to push those projections up that the BBMR requested us to do, would that equal the 2? Would that be a trigger for us if it was 2%? Is that amount equal to the 2% per quarter? That number that BBMR was, do you know that? Am I making sense? Okay. Am I making sense to you, Steve?
I'm trying to figure out what it is that you're trying to say, but what I'm thinking is that if we were to say right now at 3%,
okay,
yeah, at the 775, if we were to drop, and this is just round figures, okay, if we were to drop 23 million during the quarter, it would trigger a fiscal realignment plan.
Okay.
And that plan
what is
would
the
have
2% number?
At 3%. If it was at 2%, it would be at 15, maybe 16 million for the quarter that will trigger a fiscal realignment plan. And these are just rough numbers, just based on the 775.
And then we saw in the CRER for previous quarters that there were significant increases after certain months, right?
Well, yeah, one month you would have a 2%, 1 month you would have a negative 1.3%, the other month you would have, it goes up to 1%. So it fluctuates. But the key here is that it's not by month, it's over a quarter. So because if it was to happen every month, there's always a good possibility if the revenues drop, the fiscal realignment plan would be required because it's only for 30 days. But like discussion was made earlier, that you got to give it time to let the government kind of, bounce back. So maybe 1 month it's slow, we didn't collect well for whatever reason. Then all of a sudden the next month we collect. So, you got to give it time. And that's why I believe the law was designed to do it quarterly, to give it time to see if it can stabilize itself over time.
Okay. So just a question to the sponsor of the amendment. And maybe to you, Steve, you could answer. Would it be more realistic if we did every 2 quarters for the 2%? Because the 1 quarter does not sound realistic if that's the trend, how the government analyzes their revenue. That 2% doesn't sound realistic because it doesn't really give us or the government a time to adjust. Just looking at the trends that we had within this year. So would it be possible to do it if the fiscal realignment plan, if they drop at 2% in 2 quarters?
Senator, at the current 3%, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, I think the last time the executive branch had to do a fiscal realignment plan was several years ago under Governor Eddie Calvo's administration.
Yes.
And that was at 3%. And prior to that, I don't think it was done for a good number of years. So, if you're asking me, would it be good to do it now? Well, considering what's happening, I still feel that the quarter is good enough. It's still a safe margin. We put other things in place, other restrictions, other guidelines to make sure that, like triggers, it's red flags. That when these things happen, red flags fly up, and then we start asking questions. Good example, fiscal realignment plan. Committees hold oversight hearings. The minute something goes wrong, they call them in and ask them what's going on. So you can always ask, you can always keep on top of things, rather than, I think the 3% is good. I think the quarter is good. Now, what we're going through now is a good challenge, to this policy, to this law, and even despite what we're going through, we still haven't had to do it at the 3% level.
Okay.
So I think it's still workable. I think it's still doable. In the future, in the next 6 months, 8 months, if things really get worse, then maybe we might have to come back and revisit this whole thing again.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right. Senator Clint, who spoke already, so I can.
Oh, everyone's done, Mr. Chair.
Oh, everyone's done.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
All
kidding.
right. Senator Castro.
Mr. Chairman, on the amendment, I rise in support of it. I've gone on the record on the committee on the whole to verbalize the need to initiate the FRP. The statute reads, and it's very clear that the fiscal realignment plan is not necessarily a call to action. I interpret that as a call for caution to take the necessary planning efforts to present the various scenarios, Mr. Chairman. If you initiate the fiscal realignment plan, I think it's a great tool, especially if you look at March and all the subsequent quarters in these COVID times. I don't think 2% is unreasonable. And I don't think having to go back every 90 days, if it calls for a follow-up to adjust that plan, is unreasonable. If anything, it's a good trigger for all of us to be a part of that process. Now, the statute's clear that that's the responsibility of the administration, but there's nothing to preclude us, like we did in 2018, for the legislative body to be engaged. They went down in a series of scenarios. I think there were 17 revenue generating options. So the fiscal realignment plan is not just about cost cutting or cost containment or any other type of austerity measure. You can also build into that fiscal realignment plan the opportunity to see how we can stimulate the economy and generate revenue to make up the shortfall. So given this fiscal fragility of the economy, I just think it's prudent planning. I wrote a letter to the governor about a week ago expressing the same. It didn't accompany a press release, but it was a genuine attempt to say, I think we should just do it because it's the right thing to do. So if it has to be put into this budget through the amendment proffered by Senator Moylan, 2% is not unreasonable, and there's nothing to preclude us down the line from amending the Budget Act to stop it once we feel that things have stabilized. And so I just think it's prudent planning, and I support Senator Moylan, my colleague, in this regard. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think everybody's done, right? We've heard from Steve. Senator Clint, you need to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Guerrero, I believe we discussed this before with about this the percentage, right? So I think earlier, we've been in session we've been in discussion on this bill for so long, it's hard to remember. It's been like 3 weeks, but I think in the beginning of the budget talks, I remember you mentioning the reasoning behind 3% being the trigger point or the threshold. Could you reiterate why 3% is the threshold? Is it some sort of national standard across governments, across the states, or where does the 3% come from?
The 3% figure percentage that I was referring to, Senator, is what we've been using here at OFB for the last couple of years. It's also the same percentage that my counterpart has used in her when I say counterpart, I'm talking about my contact with Bertha Duenas down up at the governor's office. I've worked with her on this. She also has acknowledged that 2 to 3% is somewhat standard. So it's a percentage we've been using for the last couple of years to kind of gauge herself going forward. And that's what I referenced, the 3% when I spoke.
But are you aware if this is the same threshold in other jurisdictions?
It'd be hard for me to say. I don't know per se. I mean, I can go and check it out and stuff, but
it's okay. I was just wondering if you knew off the top of your head. I recall you saying something to the effect of industry standard or something to that effect previously. So in any event, with the 3% figure, okay, the threshold for this requirement for 3% threshold requiring fiscal realignment, how long has that been in use in GovGuam? You're saying a couple of years, you said? Was it used in the past?
No, the couple of years I was referring to is the last time the Governor of Guam had to do a fiscal realignment plan, which was, okay, I believe, once during Governor Calvo's administration.
Okay.
I need to go back and check the history of how long this law has been in the books.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's been in the books for a ballpark figure.
Yeah, I would say maybe, I would say, yeah, 5, 8, 10 years, maybe. Not, I don't think more than 10 years, but somewhere around there.
Well, did it exist when you were in BBMR? Let's start with that, because you were there a while back.
I believe it was still in existence, sir. Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Everybody's spoken, right? You were the last one, Senator Clint. Now, hold on, Senator Jim. I'll allow you to close. Okay. Then go ahead and close, and then we'll go ahead and vote. Senator Jim.
I heard the cathedral bells ringing. It's 9:30. I have no closing statements. Willing to vote. Let's move for the vote, Mr. Chair.
All right, then we'll go for the vote. Thank you. Joe, let's go for the vote. The vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment by Senator Moylan regarding the fiscal realignment plan, Chairman San Agustin.
No.
Chairman San Agustin, nay. Vice Chair Rogel.
Nay.
Vice Chair Rogel, nay. Vice Chair Shelton.
Aye.
Vice Chair Shelton, nay. Speaker Munoz-Barnes.
Aye.
Speaker Munoz-Barnes, nay. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Lee, nay. Senator Therese Talahi.
Could I pass?
Senator Teresa Talahi, pass. Senator Pito Talahi.
Aye.
Senator Pito Talahi, nay. Senator March Titleman.
Aye.
Senator March Titleman, nay. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Madam Vice
Okay,
Speaker?
hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Your vote, ma'am?
Ahi,
Vice Speaker Nelson, nay. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Nay.
Senator Torres, nay. Senator Taitigui.
Again.
Senator Taitigui, aye. Senator Teresa Talahi.
Again.
Senator Teresa Talahi, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 6 ayes and 9 nays.
Thank you, my colleagues. Motion fails, amendment fails. Senator Jim Moylan, you had one more that we bookmarked, and that would have to do with the, what was that one? The one of the, I guess the appointment or something like that?
Yeah. Mr. Chair,
The deputy directors?
yeah, consideration of time, I pull that. Go right ahead, Mr. Chair. Let's continue.
So
Mr. Chair, I'm
you're
offline
doing
right
what?
now. I'm using my cell phone.
All right, hold on. Senator Moylan, can you please make your statement, please? So I wasn't too sure what you said.
Okay, are you referencing my next amendment or were you referencing something else, Mr. Chair?
No,
Sorry.
no, your amendment that you brought up earlier about the deputy directors and stuff like that?
I think were you waiting for a legal opinion, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I spoke to legal and I'm gonna make a statement for that, to that effect, and I wanted to make sure that that so we can resolve that and the members can do their phone calls. All right, are you ready?
Go for it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, as I spoke with legal, and we try to understand what your intent of your amendment was, that there may be some legal implication, and I highly encourage all the members to call the legal and get the understanding of what this amendment may cause, okay? So that everybody has an understanding of it. All right? All right, Senator Moylan. So Senator Moylan?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, that's legal opinion. I'm not sure if it was ever challenged, but let's call for the vote and we'll move forward, please, Mr. Chair.
All right, sure. We'll move for the vote. Joe, let's call roll call on that. And please read out the amendment so that we all understand what the amendment's about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment proffered by Senator Moylan to add to page 134, to add a new section to the bill to read, section prohibiting the funding of the position of deputy director from an agency's budget. Notwithstanding any other provisions of the law, no funds from the budget appropriated to any of the departments pursuant to Article 1 of Chapter 3, Title 5, Guam Code Annotated, shall be utilized to fund the position of an unclassified deputy director or any like or similar position associated with being an appointed manager of that department. All departments pursuant to this chapter shall establish an internal protocol on identifying an acting director in the event they are off island or unable to perform their duties for any other purposes. Nothing in this section shall prohibit the executive branch from hiring a deputy director, provided that it is funded from the annual budget appropriated to the Office of Imagahagan Guahan pursuant to Chapter 5 of this Act. Roll call. Chairman San Agustin.
No.
Chairman San Agustin, nay. Vice Chairman Rigel.
Nay.
Vice Chair Rigel, nay. Vice Chair Shelton.
Aye.
Vice Chair Shelton, nay. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Aye.
Speaker Munya Barnes, nay. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Lee, nay. Senator Therese Talahi.
I'm good.
Senator Therese Talahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Aye.
Senator Pito Talahi, nay. Senator Marsh Titano.
Aye.
Senator Marsh Titano, nay. Senator Castro.
Aye.
Senator Castro, nay. Senator Moreland.
Aye.
Senator Moreland, aye. Senator Munya.
Aye.
Senator Munya, nay. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Aye.
Senator Torres, nay. Senator Taitagui.
Again.
Senator Taitagui, aye. Mr. Chair, the motion received 5 ayes and 10 nays.
Thank you, my colleagues. Motion fails. Madam Speaker, you have a motion on, is that on page 134, ma'am? We're on 134.
Yes, sir, I do, and I promise I'll make this fast. It's on line 23, page 134, to add a new section to the bill to read reemployment of former classified employees in education, health, and public safety, notwithstanding any provisions of law for fiscal year 2021. Former classified teachers, nurses, and public safety first responders of the government of Guam who were in good standing at the time of resignation may be reemployed at not less than the salary they earned at their former position if they apply for the same or comparable job in the same department, regardless of the time span that employee left their position. The employee may waive this privilege. Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you and just share my perspective for this amendment. And this amendment to the miscellaneous provision will, I hope, act as a recruitment tool that the Department of Education or the Department of Administration can use as an incentive to bring former teachers or nurses or police officers or firefighters and other public safety and first responders back into the government, especially to aid COVID response efforts. And I just want to share that right now employees can be rehired back into the government at the same pay within I think it's a 4-year time span. And what this amendment will do is it will temporarily lift that 4-year time span for fiscal year 2021. And I offer this for my colleagues to consider and support, and hopefully it can get a favorable consideration. Thank you.
All right, Madam Speaker, you mentioned the reemployment rights of the 4 years and basically waiving that for now, right?
Yeah, just for fiscal year 2021.
Okay, thank you. Anyone would like to speak on that motion? I'm looking for hands. I don't see any hands. We will move to vote. All right. You want to close? Do you need to close, Madam Speaker? No?
Please vote.
Okay. Senator Therese, yes, please. Well, we were ready to close, but go ahead, Senator Therese, and then we'll make that quick, please. Thank you. Because we're ready to vote.
Would this amendment mandate that they brought at that higher salary or would allow directors to bring in at that higher salary?
Mr. Chair, if I may, it would only bring them to the salary that they left at and nothing more. This is just for temporary. It's just to give them an incentive to bring the support back for fiscal year 2021. Those with the expertise that don't need to get trained, they can get hired on the spot because they've already been through it. So again, this was just a motion to incentivize this for the retirees to help out.
I don't think it's retirees, you're referring to
Yes.
former employees, sorry.
Former employees.
Not retirees.
I'm sorry, I'm just tired. Former employees. I'm sorry.
All right, yeah, because can you hear me? Yeah. So as the speaker said earlier, right now, within 4 years, it's mandatory if you get rehired in the government, you get rehired at the pay that you left at, which I'm calling higher pay. Because if you get rehired after 4 years, you're going to get hired at the lower pay, the lower steps. And so this would allow them to be hired in the higher, their former pay, which is high. Of course, people, that's normally the trend, it's going to be high. And so I'm just wondering if I like the amendment. I like if it's very hard to recruit, we've got to do whatever we got to do to get the nurses, teachers in, and if it costs to pay them more, then we pay them more. However, yeah, I just want the directors to be able to use it as a tool. You know what I mean? That if it's not difficult to recruit, then they're able to recruit at whatever level they are up to, that they can. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
All right, I just want to make it very clear on the reemployment rights, only because I've tested that twice. Reemployment, if less than 4 years, you can come back, but we're waiving that. And on the reemployment, only if the position still exists. All right, so just want to make sure we understand that if the position doesn't exist, your reemployment is only as good if the position exists. But they're waiving this, and it's part of the recruitment, trying to get people to get hired that we need to help our teachers, public safety, and nurses. Okay, I just want to make sure I made that clear. Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak about this amendment? If not, we will move to vote. I see no hands. Thank you. Joe, please take the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The amendment proffered by Speaker Munya Barnes for page 134, line 23. Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Teresa Talahi. Senator Teresa Talahi.
Again.
Thank you. Senator Teresa Talahi, aye. Senator Pito Talahi.
Again.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Mars Taitano.
Again.
Senator Mars Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Again.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitui.
Again.
Senator Taitui, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
Thank you. Motion passes. it'll be engrossed in the budget, and I see Senator Kelly and I see Senator Lee waving their hand. I will start with Senator Kelly, and then I'll come back to you, Senator Lee. Senator Kelly, please.
Situas Masi, Mr. Chair. I have my amendment. It was loaded before. It's on top of James's one, so you have to go back a few to find it. But I have a few for this page.
You have a
So
few.
it's
Okay. Hopefully
yeah.
it'll be quickly
I hope so too.
be quickly announced and moved forward. I'm looking for it, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see, it was before all of his. Here, it's ahead of Senator Teresa's as well. Page 134, GPLS.
Okay, please read it out. Wait. Let me see. It's being loaded there. 148. Okay.
Okay.
Please read your amendment, please, and then we can move along.
Yes. Sorry, I guess I still have a couple of other people's amendments open. Sorry about that.
This looked like an amendment that should have been proffered at the Guam Public Library, but go ahead, please. Just go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead and read it off, please.
Yeah. Okay. So it's one of those straightforward ones. Oh, here. So line 23, page 134, a new section 32, but that'll have to be technically corrected, is added to chapter 12 miscellaneous provisions to read section 32. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, the unexpended balance of funds appropriated to the Guam Public Library system in fiscal year 2020 shall not lapse and shall continue to be available until fully expended. So yeah, the libraries are perhaps going to be very important moving forward, having access to Wi-Fi for a lot of the youth that are going through distance learning. They might even be educational hubs. So it just gives them the flexibility that probably all of our agencies need.
All right, does anybody want to speak to this amendment? I don't see any hands waving. We will move to vote. Joe, call the roll call. Let's move. This is talking about public library.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the amendment from Senator March Taitano for page 134, Chairman San Agustin.
Aye.
Chairman San Agustin, aye. Vice Chair Rajel.
Aye.
Vice Chair Rajel, aye. Vice Chair Shelton.
Again.
Vice Chair Shelton, aye. Speaker Munya Barnes.
Again.
Speaker Munya Barnes, aye. Senator Lee.
Again.
Senator Lee, aye. Senator Teresa Talahi. It appears we may have lost connection with her. Moving on, Senator Pito Talahi.
Aye.
Senator Pito Talahi, aye. Senator Mars Taitano.
Hungin.
Senator Mars Taitano, aye. Senator Castro.
Again.
Senator Castro, aye. Senator Moylan.
Aye.
Senator Moylan, aye. Senator Munya.
Again.
Senator Munya, aye. Vice Speaker Nelson.
Again.
Vice Speaker Nelson, aye. Senator Perez.
Again.
Senator Perez, aye. Senator Torres.
Yes.
Senator Torres, aye. Senator Taitui.
Good.
Senator Taitui, aye. Senator Teresa Talahi.
Good.
Senator Teresa Talahi, aye. Mr. Chair, the amendment received 15 aye votes.
Thank you, colleagues. The motion passes. It'll be engrossed into the budget bill. Senator Lee, you have an amendment, ma'am?
Oh, I still have a few more on this page, or?
You still have a few more? Do you have it uploaded already, ma'am?
Yes, it's already in the chat. And this one is also for line 23, page 134. So we've heard from our different entities like GVB and others that they want nonprofit status so that they can go looking for as many grants as they can find to fill out their pared down budgets. So the Commission y Fino Tomorrow Foundation wishes to be a nonprofit corporation. So a new section 33 that will have to be technically corrected is added to chapter 12 miscellaneous provisions to read section 33 Commission y Fino Tomorrow Foundation Nonprofit Corporation. A new subsection 88105P is added to chapter 88 title 5 Guam Code annotated to read as follows. P is hereby authorized to establish a public not-for-profit corporation that shall be separate and apart from the government of Guam and the Commission for the purpose of being able to accept private gifts, donations, endowments, grants, and other monies which may be offered to the Commission. Such gifts, donations, endowments, or grants, supra, shall be in accordance with the laws of Guam and subject to reasonable conditions. Such funds received shall be deposited into a fund controlled by the corporation, supra, and shall be known as the Commission y Fino Tomorrow Foundation.
All right. Senator Kelly, are you familiar with the nonprofit requirement by IRS and the Department of Revenue and Tax? I'm just curious. So I've never seen this done. I know DOE is authorized, and there's certain agencies in Guam, so I'm just curious. It's kind of like granting
Right, so,
the commission
I know
a
that there
nonprofit
are-
without.
Yeah, so I believe DCA is a nonprofit status, and the CAHA has been. And so the Commission y Fino Tomorrow, sort of fitting in with those niches, wanted to have this nonprofit status as well. So I know it's a lengthy process to go through, and they wanted to get a head start on being able to go through that process.
Okay, I would prefer we get with legal on this one, Senator Kelly, because I'm quite familiar with the nonprofit process at Revenue and Tax and how they go through IRS. So I just wanted to make sure that we're okay with this, okay, ma'am? It's not to say I object to it, I support it, but I just want to make sure we're not crossing the line with when we're dealing in taxation, okay? Senator Lee, you have any questions, ma'am, on this?
No, Mr. Chair, and I don't object to the amendment either, but I just feel that, I think that with our compressed time, I really want to be able to ask a lot of questions about this and have Commission y Fino Tomorrow come and talk with us and give us a little bit more input. So perhaps a public hearing on this idea as a bill would be a better route. I really want to be able to learn more about what they're doing and how we can help them.
All right, anybody else would like to bring up anything?
Yeah, I mean, they
Senator
are
Kelly?
available by phone.
Anybody else would like to speak on this? Senator Therese, please.
I appreciate this amendment and the intent. And I too just feel if we could do it in a separate hearing so that we can make sure we don't have any unanticipated consequences to this commission. I would just like to see those parameters set forth, Mr. Chair.
All right, okay. Senator Kelly, do you have an issue with that? If you can introduce this in a bill and then we can get it through.
Yeah, we were hoping to give them a jump start. Like I said, DCA and CAHA have had this status as well, and so we were.
And are you familiar with how they got the status, ma'am? Are you aware of
Well,
how they got the status?
It was quite a long time ago, and it was before the people who were there. So I haven't gotten the history on that.
Okay, because I'm quite aware of how schools and PTAs and a bunch of over 1,000 nonprofit exists on Guam. There is a simple process. They have the standard format, and then the IRS gets involved because you have to identify your employer's identification number, and you get registered, and then it's done. It's not that hard. So I'm just curious, I just don't want us to get caught in the legal side. And Senator Therese brought that issue up, and Senator Lee. I just wanted to make sure that.
Yeah, perhaps while we're looking at this next one, you could send it to legal and just hear what their thoughts are.
All right, we only got 3 minutes left, ma'am. So, and we're gonna come back tomorrow, okay? We are all gonna come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We need to wrap this up, folks. We got 25 more pages to go and a bunch of amendments still. As much as Senator Clinton asked not to come back tomorrow, he's agreed to come back reluctantly.
Right, and I was hoping we were going to wrap it up today as well. So this next one is also for the commission, if you know tomorrow, their authorizations. And so again, they're just looking.
Senator Kelly, we're out of time right now. The system
Senator,
will have to reset. Joe?
Mr. Chair, could you need to dispose of the amendment first?
Okay, Senator Kelly, on your amendment, on this amendment, on the creation of the commission.
We're meeting again tomorrow. Can I have legal look at it and just give us some thoughts, and we can pick it up tomorrow then?
Remind me not to vote for.
Okay, Senator Kelly, then you pause on us discussing that, and
Yeah.
we can't settle this.
Yeah, I'll pause on it. Right.
All right, my colleagues, we're 1 minute away from when the system will start shutting down. Senator Lee, please.
Mr. Chair, I can probably do this.
I had other amendments.
Senator Kelly, stand by, please. We're going to shut down. You are not going to introduce any more amendments. Senator Lee, please.
Okay, no, I was confused.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I think I can get done in one minute. This amendment is in our Zoom chat, and it's being proffered at the request of the Guam Department of Labor in order to help fill critical positions during their continued increased workload during this time of very high unemployment. And Mr. Chair, it's on line 11, page 134, to add new subsection to section 28 of chapter 12 to the bill. This is just adding a letter V, customer service representatives at the Guam Department of Labor. And the specific unclassified jobs GDOL is looking to fill are customer service representatives. These employees will be able to help assist the incredibly large numbers of clients that this department now has. So according to the Department of Labor, these employees will be able to assist all programs with the exception of specialized tasks related to alien labor process. And we all know that the department has undertaken a monstrous...
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's 10 o'clock already. By law, we have to be done by 12.
I'm just finishing up. Thank you so much, Senator Taitegui, for your...
All right. Senator Lee, I apologize, but I know you were trying to get that in within 10 o'clock. It is 10 o'clock.
So maybe if my colleagues could just review that.
Yes, please, everybody review it.
Thank you for keeping us on time.
All right, thank you. We meet all at 9 o'clock, folks. Please be ready, and let's move. Reduce the amount of time you need to talk about it. Get it out. Let everybody take a look at it, and then we can discuss it and dispose of it. Okay, thank you. Senator Therese, we're gonna recess till tomorrow 9 o'clock. Thank you.